Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning, the final day of the season for the Utah Hockey Club. They played Game 81 last night and won it decisively in Nashville, 7-3. Got up 4-1, gave up a couple goals late in the second period. It was 4-3 going to the third, but they scored 3 times in the third and they won 7-3. And hit a few individual milestones and some team milestones along the way. They now have 89 points, which is basically where Vegas set the over-under. I saw 87.5. I saw 88.5 in some places. They're sitting on 89. Basically, they've been who they were expected to be. And the last time they had 89 points in a season was in 2014. So they have matched their best season since 2014. And the last time they broke 90 was in 2012. So this team's been down for a while, but it is clearly trending up. 57 points to 70 points to 77 points last year, and now to 89 and maybe 90 or 91. We'll see what they do tonight. A few of your favorite players are hitting some milestones along the way for what that's worth, seeing younger guys continue and improve. I don't know that Clayton Keller's a younger guy. He's moving into his prime now. As you can see from his stats, he got goals number 28 and 29. He got assists number 59 and 60. If he can find one goal tonight, 30 goals, 60 assists, a 90-point season, that'd be something. Barrett Hayton, already having a career best season. He's hit 25 goals. Logan Cooley now has, he's hit 20 goals and 25 assists. Logan Cooley got his 25th goal in the game last night, and he also picked up his 40th assist. So guys are hitting milestones. The young guys are putting up bigger and bigger numbers, and we'll see where it goes from here. One more game in St. Louis tonight. We'll get the best of the postgame show coming up. Also coming up, we've got a half an hour with Justin Zanik. You do not get to hear a lot from the Jazz front office. Danny Ainge tends to talk about twice a year. Justin Zanik talks a little more than that, but probably a half dozen tops, and that's if you count him going on TV broadcasts. But he did answer a lot of questions, went for half an hour. We're going to play that for you coming up later this morning. Some of the big takeaways, I think he thinks a lot of the things that, we thought about Bryce Sensabaugh and Isaiah Collier, and he had some praise from them. You'll hear that. Will Hardy, head coach, also talked, came away, conditioning concerns with both of those guys. Okay, you're in okay shape for a rookie, but now you get a summer as a pro, and it's different because the draft doesn't hit until June. You got 2 months. You can have your week off, decompress from the season, then come back and go to work, and you can put in 2 months of work before you get to the draft. You couldn't do that last year. You're busy doing workouts. And now you're with the strength and conditioning team. You're with your assistant working out, adding whatever skill they want to add in the offseason, getting in better shape. This can be a much more productive summer than the rookie summer. So we'll hear about the Jazz coming up. Utah Hockey Club with the post game next. Stay with us, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. DJ and PK proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Okay, we've got a lot to get to today. You're going to hear a lot about the Jazz, end of the season. Utah Hockey Club not quite there. Played Game 81 last night. Picked up a nice win on the road in Nashville, 7-3. Adrian Denny with more on the post-game report.
A 7-3 win for the Utah Hockey Club on Monday night in Nashville was highlighted by 2 goals and 2 assists for captain Clayton Keller as he picked up his 4th 4-point night of the year and shattered his previous career high in scoring. He's now up to 89 points in 80 games on the year, and Matt Villalta in his Utah debut picked up his first career NHL win, stopping 27 of 30 as Utah improves to a season high 8 games above 500 at 38, 30, and 13. They've outscored the opposition 12-6 to open this 2-game road trip, and the season will wrap up tonight in St. Louis. It'll be a 6 p.m. start right here on 97.5. The KSL Sports Zone will be on the air at 5. It was a game where Utah fell behind early for the second straight game on an opposing team's power play goal. In fact, Matt Folta faced a barrage of shots early. As 4:10 into the contest, Utah was shorthanded 5-on-3 for 1 minute and 39 seconds. Stopped the first 6 shots he saw in the special team situation before Nashville scored as the power play expired to go up 1-0. But Utah would storm back. 6 minutes and 20 seconds later, Michael Kesselring's 7th got Utah off and running on what would be the first of 4 straight.
He steps in down the left wall. Kerfoot back to the point, spun across by Sergachev. Dangerous pass, but there's Kesselring. He opens fire and scores!
Then with 1:39 left to go in the first, Nick Bjugstad would get his 3rd goal in the last 5 games and his 8th of the season.
Deep button hooks on the near side, pass towards the slot. Bjugstad shoots and scores! Nick Bjugstad tucks one in, and Utah takes the lead here on Broadway.
Utah came out strong in the second, 2 goals in a 1 minute and 10 second stretch in the first 4 minutes and 13 seconds. Logan Cooley getting a goal for the 3rd time in 4 games and starting off what would be a second straight 3-point night for him.
Puck stolen by Keller across. Cooley looks in, fires, scores! Logan Cooley puts Utah up by 2 here at Bridgestone Arena. It's 3-1.
Then Nick Schmaltz would become the 5th Utah player this year to get to at least 20 goals as Utah cashed in on the power play.
Keller, right face-off dot. Surveying the menu. Schmaltz again, another one-timer. This one finds the back of the net. Nick Schmaltz makes it 4-1 on the 5-on-3.
That Utah power play is now red hot all of a sudden. 11 for their last 20 after having that stretch of going 1 for their previous 21. We had a little bit of an ice delay late in the second, so we went to the locker rooms early, right as Nashville just scored 2 goals in 3 minutes and 19 seconds to make it 4-3. Utah was shorthanded, and then Philip Forsberg took a divot out of the ice trying to stop as he got held up by Kesselring. And so we went to the dressing rooms. We came back out. Utah killed the penalty, didn't allow a shot, and really kind of took the game back over from there. Clayton Keller breaking the tie for the team leading goals with Dylan Gunther right here on his 28th.
The blue line for Utah, walks it over to the right wing. Utah in the offensive zone, the captain's pass broken up. Keller gets it back, it tips in, and they score! Clayton Keller puts Utah up by 2. The captain does it all himself.
And then Keller would score his 29th and give Utah a 3-goal lead.
It's an empty net for the Preds. Keller at the empty net scores. 2 goals for the Utah captain and NHL game number 600.
And not done yet, Kevin Stenlund, with 25 seconds left, got his 14th to make it a 7-3 contest.
Mata with a shot that tips in, and they score! Touchdown, Utah!
So Utah's now 5-0-1 in their last 6 and 7-1-2 in their last 10. And a big one in St. Louis tonight. I'll tell you why coming up. But first, let's hear from head coach Andre Tourigny.
First, really happy about Matt. I think it's a big win. He started strong, especially during our 5-on-3. Made a few key saves, and I don't think we played our best game, but I like the way we played in the third. I think we managed the game better. We got on our forecheck and got our chance, and we buried a few to loosen up the game a little bit.
That second period divot situation, it was kind of a weird momentum swing, obviously in the middle of the game, but your guys didn't falter on that. You know, how does that talk to me a little bit about that momentum and how that reflects on the group?
Yeah, I think actually help us. I think to just get our bearing together and just bearing straight, and we played better after. But I think it's just a weird situation. But we got on the box a little bit too much at the beginning. That gave them the momentum, and then it went on the other side. We scored a few goals on our power play that helped us, and I think there was not a lot of good hockey for a long time, but like I said, I like the way we came after the break. We came up strong, killed a big kill, and then we played solid after.
As far as Clayton Keller, obviously a milestone night for him in more the ways than one. When you have a guy like that who's celebrating wins along his career while you've seen him grow, what does that do for you as a coach?
Yeah, that's I always talk about Kel's compete level and his desire to improve, you know. as much as he's happy, he always wants more. And he knows how hard it is to get to that point. So credit to him. It's a great season, and he's first as captain. People were wondering how he will wear the C. You got your answer.
That Kerfoot, Steny, Bjugstad line, the leadership line, the last couple of games, how instrumental have they been in some of these wins?
They're huge. I think if you look at the production of our team, we score more goals, but it's spread out throughout the lineup. I think we got the production of all the lines and our 2 unit of power play, especially in Dallas. So I think that make our team even more dangerous.
You mentioned being happy for Matt, but what does it do for the room after a long season to see a guy have an NHL first and realize the privilege to play in the NHL?
Yeah, I think it's great. Those guys, there's a lot of those guys who've been there. They all play their first game at some point. So when you see a guy like Matt who went in the jungle and fight through adversity and finally has a chance and get a win like that, I think it's always great for the group. And he's a great guy. He's fun to be around. He has a lot of energy, so it's good for him.
Always a smile.
Always a smile.
You're getting scoring up and down the lineup, and in the last 3 of the last 4 games, defensemen have scored. What are you seeing out of your D-core, allowing them to also contribute on the score sheet in different ways?
Well, I think it's always a teamwork. I think your D needs to be able to get pucks through, but you need traffic as well. You need to have guys at the net. So I think it's a cohesion. It's to be connected and just make sure we're playing together.
Since the last time you saw Matt start an NHL game last February against the Oilers, how have you seen him, improve and change his game?
I think he felt bigger in the net. Always like his read and his quickness. I think the last time it's a little bit unfair. We didn't play a really good game, play against a really good opponent, and it was not really fair for him. At the time on top he played, our schedule was absolutely crazy. So I'm happy for him. He had another opportunity and he made good on it.
So Utah goes into St. Louis tonight. If the Blues win, they clinch a playoff spot. If not, they have to watch scores from 2 Calgary games the rest of the week. So Utah going to see if they can keep the Blues from holding on to their playoff destiny. We can expect to see Karel Vejmelka back in between the pipes on the back-to-back, but what a first NHL win for Matt Villalta, who had backed up Vejmelka for the previous 9 starts. He made his NHL debut last year in Arizona, his first NHL start against Edmonton last February, but this would be his first NHL win. He stopped 14 of 15 in the first period, and Utah didn't allow much the rest of the way. We heard from Matty V after the game, too.
After a game like tonight, what was that like to share your first NHL career win with these guys and have that experience?
I think just unbelievable. It was, I think it's, dream come true. Something you dream of as you're a kid, getting your first game and then, eventually winning. And hopefully it's the first of many. But, the group, it's a special group inside that locker room. And, everyone's an A1 person. And it's just a pleasure to be a part of it. And, it was awesome to be out there and, grinding with them and ultimately getting the win. So it was unreal.
How did that game progress for you personally? How'd you feel out there?
Yeah, I think I felt pretty good. I think the biggest thing for me was just to play free. I'd done a lot of work this year down in Tucson, working on my process, trying to change my game into an NHL goaltender, and just really simplifying things and making it more predictable for myself. And obviously the game up here is a lot quicker, and I got a quick taste of that on that early 5-on-3, and it's they got a lot of high-end talent on that side, and the PK did a really good job. And I think on a personal note is just be in the moment, live in my shoes, and have fun. And I think when you're having fun, that's when you play your best. And I think it was just be in the moment and enjoy it and soak it all in and keep the puck out of the net.
Since getting this call up, who here has helped give you that confidence or maybe instill some tips? I mean, I know we've talked about Vejmelka being kind of that sounding board for you, but what's that experience been like to kind of gain perspective here? Yeah,
I think just everyone in general. I played with Barrett and Junior. I lived with Durs my first year pro when we were in LA system together. So a lot like those two guys are unreal humans, and you can talk to them about anything. Donor, played with them all last year. Gunner, the leadership group's amazing too, and it just made me really feel welcomed. And the transition coming from Tucson, it was a breeze. So I think just the whole group, from coaching staff, management, everyone, they've been top notch. So they've all made it really easy, and I'm just having fun working hard.
So game 82 of 82 coming up tonight. I'll talk to you at 5 for Hockey Night in Utah. Puck drops at 6 right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
There's Adrian Denny on the postgame report. When we come back, Justin Zanik, press conference, a little more than half an hour. You're going to hear that next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. A reminder, win tickets Wednesday. Don't miss your chance to win big every week on The Zone. Coming up, Cyndi Lauper. August 14th, Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. I know you don't want to miss Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun farewell tour. Get tickets now at livenation.com or listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. Justin Zanik, Jazz General Manager, meeting with the media. His thoughts at the end of a season. Here he is.
Just want to start off by saying this, as I had told you at the beginning of the season, that this could be a really productive, informative season for us to evaluate our players, our staff, and there were a lot of positives that came from this season. As I know it was tough with wins and losses, but the development of our young players, the establishment of a continued culture and foundation. I couldn't be more proud of our coaching staff and our players, that they tried to play the right way. They were coached hard. We were prepared and largely competitive. So those small W's that we talked about at the beginning of the season, rather than a lot of big W's, as far as the record, I couldn't be more happy. I also am really continue to be awed by our fans and our community for the support that they give us every year. 333 home sellouts is amazing, and in large part, I think those fans were there every night, and understanding what was at stake and really getting behind our young players. And I know each of them, to a man, have acknowledged those fans and community every day. As you guys know, around the NBA, this is one of the most unique fan bases in cities. There's so many competitive teams out there that are in the playoffs, and we go to their arenas and it's half full. It's just amazing. So thank you to our fans and the support of our organization, and it's never lost on us for that support. So I guess I'll start answering questions.
Hey, Justin.
Hi, Ryan.
Before we talked before the season, we talked about that 7 guys, 23 and younger. Now that you have a year of information,
it's now 10 under 24.
Yeah.
By the way.
Could you just take us through those guys and what have you learned about them this season?
Sure. Do you want me to go each one, or highlight ones and you want to follow up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. So let's start with the rookies first. Obviously, the way the summer goes and you get drafted and it's just a whirlwind for them. I think that having gone through this for a couple years, being able to establish an immediate foundation, and we needed time. Every rookie needs time to adjust to the speed, to the schedule, and it always takes a little bit. But you could see when they had opportunities to play that there were always flashes of stuff. So Kyle, learning how to integrate being both a 4 and a 5, and constant, changing in lineups and figuring out how to play. You could really see that he knows how to play and his basketball IQ. And then for him, really just you learn lessons every game about the physicality of the game and all of these notes that we put together for him and in consultation with him at what he needs to do this summer. We have individual development plans for each of these guys, and so for all 3 of these rookies, this summer is probably the most important summer of their young careers, because they finally have time to train. With Isaiah, thing that I noticed about Isaiah that I really enjoy, I think The point guard position is really, really hard to play, especially as a 20-year-old. But he demonstrated early that he knows what's going on in the game, time and score, who's played well, who needs the ball. Certainly, he has things to work on, but just his pace and strength at 20 years old and be able to even break a fairly significant record in Jazz history of having the most assists as a rookie is impressive. Those two aren't fully formed players yet and will be here all summer. But was very, very pleased with their development, even though there were some lumps at times. With Cody, when we took Cody, he's got a very good brain. He's in the right places most of the time and kind of understands what's going on in the game. We knew that physically that he was going to take a lot more time than necessarily some of the other guys that were more physically ready. And his time on the court, while he struggled with certain aspects, I think they were good reinforcement lessons, again, of what he needs to do this summer. And that is just from a strength standpoint, understanding the speed of the game. He has so many good tools with his size and his length and his brain that there's a lot of things he needs to work on. But I know this experience for him, he wants to attack it this summer. I believe, given good health, he obviously had an illness at the end of the season, but he'll be recovered in time for training this summer. All three of them will be here. All three of them will play in Summer League. So just a really solid first year for all of them, for us to see where they are, where they can get to. And our staff does a great job in terms of development for guys that want to put in the time. Those guys are going to put in the time, and we'll see where we are in August and September. Our second-year players, I think all of them took individually different steps. Unfortunately for Taylor, obviously the season-ending injury, the third game of the season, but he's really tried to use it, take a silver lining out of it, the chance to focus on his body and the mental part of the game and studying. He was, coach made him basically an assistant coach when he was allowed to travel with the team, and you could see his personality start coming out as he worked on his body and felt more confident. He will be hopefully fully cleared for open gym and training camp. I mean, he'll be able to get on the court this summer, but he will not play Summer League. We want to be pretty conservative with that type of an injury. As fast as he is developing, you also want to give time to build strength in the lower body and those things. And he's been able to start shooting and start moving around and getting used to the new weight that he's put on. He's done an unbelievable job with his body. So in light of a very tough injury, there are a lot of positives to take from him. I think Keontae, he's always been a player that has given us some very, very good moments over the last 2 years. I know that there's been criticism sometimes of his efficiency, but I think a lot of that also is the role that we've asked him to take with a very young team. I think him being able to come off the bench and have a backcourt partner with Isaiah allowed him to be a little bit more efficient, and this summer will continue to be huge for him in terms of the feedback that he's gotten in terms of the shots that he takes, but his attitude has been great. He's a hard worker. Certainly young players still need to continue to work on lots of things, and he'll be here as well all summer. So I'm excited about that for him, and I'm excited for him to take another step. I think with Bryce, Bryce was able to, his first rookie year he was kind of behind the eight ball with the injury and playing in the G League at the beginning of the year, and showed a few signs last spring that he could shoot and could really, see the court. And I think he was largely able to establish himself as a very, very good shooter in this league. And while he has other things that he needs to develop to become a more complete player, I think those were a big step for him personally, and also for our organization, that he's got some tangible things that can apply to an NBA game and apply to an eventually championship competitive team. Who else? Is that all? You good? I'll get to him. Sure.
Give you a break. I think you're right that the fans have been really impressive during the stretch. I also think that there are a significant number of fans who are frustrated or upset by the injury report or, whatever, for lack of a better word, tanking. What would you say to those fans that are frustrated with kind of the decisions and the direction of the team this year?
Sure. I think it's natural to be frustrated. I mean, I think the entire organization, we're all competitive and want to win as many games as possible. I also, the main goal of this organization is to open up a championship window to give this fan base a way to be very, very proud of a team that can go deep in the playoffs. And as we were previously constructed and presently constructed, we're building towards that. And yes, there's growing pains. There's tough nights and tough moments that our players have to go through as well. So I can fully understand why there could be some frustration where all of us would like to have some immediate gratification of doing this and winning every game and winning a title when that's just not in the cards, but we all still have to go through it. And so I completely respect that. I guess what I would say to those that are frustrated is that there are a lot of things to be positive about or to look forward to, hopefully, with our young team and what could happen this summer and with the extra opportunities that we've created to continue to add players that will make this organization and community proud and continue to build that championship level team. But it takes time, and so I get it.
Justin, you've got 4 players on the roster that are non-guaranteed, potentially 4 players coming into the draft, barring other moves, and then beyond that, other moves during the summer. Is there a decision with those players? When will a decision be made on them?
So we'll obviously we've had time to evaluate our players throughout the season and their growth. Obviously, a little more of those substantive meetings will continue to take place here over the next couple weeks since we just finished. A lot of the contracts kind of take care of themselves, just whether they're trigger dates or they're non-guaranteed or other opportunities. We have players that have player options. We have players that are becoming expiring, which is natural in the league. So, that evaluation and what opportunities we have will continue in the summer, but a large part of that, the contracts themselves will kind of dictate that.
Then let's go Walker, because he's extension eligible, and
Yep.
Just thoughts on him this season, kind of bouncing back from last season, and then what thoughts on his extension?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm really proud of Walker for attacking last summer, really taking the feedback he kind of learned about himself in his second season, and also the feedback from our coaching staff, especially with Will. I mean, Will is, I think you guys don't get to see it every day, but he's an unbelievable teacher, and he invests in his relationships with his players, with the front office. It's why we all are so connected, is a large part credit to him. And credit to Walker for taking that feedback and really attacking last summer. And I think in large part you saw that development on the court, not only with his body, but his pace of play, the urgency that he would play with, showed up statistically as well. So I think there's still more. He's 24, and like I said, really proud of him. So we'll get into those discussions this summer, and just depending on different things. But I can see him being a part of this team for a long time. His attitude and commitment to not only our organization but to himself and to this community, he's made me proud that way, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on him. He's got more to give, and I think he knows that too, and I mean that in the most positive way. 23. I guess Johnny's older than him. It's hard to keep track of the 20s when you got 10 kids.
One other obvious question, I guess, is what is the plan for the team next year, right? Do you want to try to win games and be competitive and playoff competitive, or do you want to continue building with a young team and try to attack the draft again next year?
So I wish I could tell you that that's binary decision, Andy. The main reason that we have acquired our assets and been very disciplined about our flexibility is to be ready for any opportunity. If there is a great opportunity out there to quote unquote speed it up, we have the ability to do that. That part I'm not in control of. I mean, that's the market, but we positioned ourselves for the last couple of years to be ready for that. I also don't know what time or when those become available. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of news coming out across the league over the next month, 2 months of what that looks like. You have free agency, you have the draft, you have, a lot of trades going on now. Historically, with the new CBA, it feels like there's more like trade opportunities and moving up and down and around in the draft than there is necessarily free agency anymore. We'll see if that changes, but the organization is aligned to like our first goal, and that's to build a championship competitive club that can go deep in the playoffs for a long time. So if those opportunities where we can kind of speed it up and do that, we'll do it. And if they don't, the flexibility allows us to do it at any time. And our big focus last year and this coming year and the following is, with the amount of young players that we have on our team, is a lot of that growth for our team is going to happen internally as well. And then strategically being able to add pieces to complement that group and to move us forward.
Potentially the same answer, but what changes in your off-season plans depending on what happens in the lottery?
I mean, look, the lottery is the lottery. I mean, we've done everything we can to control where we are. I can't control what the results are May 12th. I do know that if we select that selection, that we're going to get I think I'm excited about that, to add another good young player to our group. Possibly two, depends on, we do have two firsts this year, and 2 seconds. So that gives us some flexibility to maybe move around we do have the capacity to add a couple players through the draft with our roster. But you guys can bring out all your rabbit's foots and lucky charms and see what happens, but we're going to be able to add a good player, and then it's our job for whatever young player we draft is to get them better and to develop them and hopefully develop into a core piece with us.
I think that would be my opinion, that Will's done a uniquely good job in getting guys to buy in despite what the situation is win-loss wise. But is he the coach that you would want once the team is starting to go in a different direction?
Absolutely. If I had a vote, I honestly would cast my vote for Coach of the Year for Will Hardy. As I said before, he's an incredible teacher, incredible communicator, a great partner. And when I say partner, not only with ownership, myself, Danny, but the players. He is truly invested in our players' individual development, as well as obviously the development for us to be better as a team. I'm actually not sure there's anybody better in the league than he is at how much he invests in our group. It helps him in 2 ways. One, they actually listen to him because he knows, our players know he cares very much about him, and he makes deposits every day in those relationships so that when there are tough moments or he needs to coach them hard, they respond because they know he's invested in their individual success, which is also translates to team success. So by doing, I call it something like doing your work early, and he's very, very consistent about it. It's just a credit to him, and he's a huge asset for our organization now and going forward. I couldn't be prouder of him, and this has been a tough season for all of us. I mean, I've been on the road probably 90% of the time with the team. Offer support, be there. If they're going to go through a tough season, I'm going to go through it with them. I'm not going to go run away. But to see him consistently, and the staff that he's built, have a consistent approach and a continued investment, even when the season was hard, that they woke up every day to not only do their jobs, but do it at a high level, and largely have these players respond on a daily basis to them. Even though we were a young team and we didn't always do everything right and things could get sloppy, but he got them to play hard and to be invested for the season, no matter what the result was, because he got them to believe in their own development and that they could take ownership in that. And it's something we continually preach, for them to take ownership in their development, be a partner with us for helping them get better, which obviously helps their career, but also helps us build a championship team. So he's been great.
Questions?
I'll translate for everyone else, Sandy.
Wanted to ask about the veterans. You've got John Collins, player option, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, now going into probably expiring contracts. What's your approach with them in the trade market, or in general, just this offseason, in terms of wanting to keep them around versus maybe finding new homes for them?
I mean, I think the first thing that I'll say is that I was really, really happy with all three of them this year, in terms of their approach, their commitment to, we talked to them early about kind of heads up about what this season could look like. They're all competitors, all of us are, but, with veteran players who are, either entering their prime or in the prime of their career, and who have accomplished a lot in the league already, you always want to win. You want to be in that spotlight and have meaningful games to play. And when you have seasons like we did, where largely that was probably not going to be the case, for them to embrace mentoring and spending time with our young players and showing them how to be professional, showing what it means to show up to work every day and work on your craft. We had, 4 really, really good examples of that, and I'm including Lowry in that as well. So I was very pleased with that. I think if you talk to them individually, they all want to win, and I agree with that. I mean, we all want to win, but part of this too is, the contract situation and being part of an environment that they were last year. I couldn't be more pleased with what they did. As far as the future is concerned, we'll get into those discussions with their agents and those things as we start the off season and kind of evaluate what happened last season, which, like I said, I'm very, very positive on. So we'll get into those discussions and what they want to do and stuff, but they've all been very, very engaged this year, not only with our organization, but also the community and the fans. I think they were largely pleased that they were here, even if the results weren't great.
Lowry's been pretty vocal about his desire to stay here, and that signing the extension was a signal that he didn't care what the situation was and that he believed in where the team was going. That sentiment from him, how much weight does that hold when you start to decide what could happen with him in the future?
Well, the only thing that's happening with him in the future right now is he's got 4 more years on a very large contract that we signed last year. You're always grateful when your best player gives you confidence in what we're doing as an organization, but also the confidence we have in him to extend him that long and at that significant amount. So every one of these, when you have a core player like that, to have the partnership of understanding what's going on while also being able to coach him, he doesn't have anything to do necessarily with our decisions as a group other than him expressing confidence in us to build a team that he wants to win just as much as anybody, and we're grateful for it. And I've enjoyed every minute of the day that we've had Lowry on our roster. I also love the fact that not only his commitment to the organization, but his commitment to continue to improve. I think he's seen real tangible results of our ability to partner with him for him to reach the highest levels that he's ever had in his career. And so that'll just continue. And then when opportunities come up to add to the roster, but I see Lowry as a central part of what we're doing. It's why we signed him, is that we think he can be a huge piece for us as we join the competitive ranks.
I know there's a lot of work to be done in terms of evaluating the draft still to go, but as you look at this top 5, what stands out to you about this particular top 5 compared to other drafts in the past?
Sure.
And, especially around that number 5 spot, which is a possibility, is a likely possibility, there are a number of players that can fit in around there. Do you have a favorite there? Do you have, or what are your view on kind of that side of the top 5 of that?
Yeah, so as you know, I can't talk about any individual player until the guys presumably that are declaring for the draft actually do it, and we get our list at the end of the month. But that being said, we're in a talent acquisition mode. We need to add good players for the fans, for the organization, for my coach. We need to develop them. So this draft versus last year or the year before, it's good. There's depth. Obviously, we need to know all parts of the draft because we're all over and we do every year anyway. I think as we design our workouts and with guys coming in, like to see different things, but talent is the most rare of acquiring in the league. And also, as we get to know these players through interviews and medical and all those things will shape some of the decision making, and then also what other opportunities are out there that are related to draft tangent related. They're all kind of intertwined. I've told you guys that before. It's not just the draft or just free agency or just trades. They're all kind of intermingled as we try to add to this team and push forward in being competitive.
When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
In the 2025 WNBA Draft, the Dallas Wings select Paige Beckers.
UConn star Paige Beckers, the number 1 pick in the overall draft in the NBA and the WNBA, and 2 of the top 5 were Europeans. The game continues to get more international, PK.
Well, Paige Becker, she's white, too,
I've heard that.
That's why the other one had all the fame and all the TV ratings.
I've heard that. I've heard that, too.
Repeating what I heard, And
yeah, there you go. Over in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns fired Mike Budenholzer after finishing 11th in the West. He's owed $40 million. And the Pelicans, late in yesterday's show, fired Executive Vice President for Basketball Operations David Griffin after 6 seasons in charge. A lot of rumors about Joe Dumars taking that job. Of course, he ran the Pistons for a long time, and then he moved to the NBA office. He's the Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Pistons, and we'll see if he's getting back into it now.
He's the Executive Vice President for Detroit?
He was. He was essentially their top basketball person. And then he took the job in the NBA office, doing basketball operations for them. He was the 2003 NBA Executive of the Year as the Pistons built a really good run of teams there. They're in the conference finals like 6 years in a row, won one NBA title. Denver Nuggets Vice Chair Josh Kroenke says he balked twice this season about firing Calvin Booth and Michael Malone. Thought about it in November, decided not to do it. Thought about it in February, decided not to do it. And finally did it right before the playoffs, because what better time to turn everything upside down?
Well, you get an extra base, though, when the runners do when you balk. So I don't know if Denver got an extra base. And this was a good move? Remains to be seen. How do we know it's not a good move? You just poo-pooed it.
Ultimately, maybe a new voice will help, but the timing looks pretty weird.
They're 3-0 with the new coach. What better results can you get than that?
They actually had an 8-game winning streak at the All-Star break, and that made him think about not doing it, but it wasn't against quality competition, and now he thinks it was a mistake. NBA play-in starts tonight. Atlanta and Orlando at 5:30. The Grizzlies and the Warriors at 8 o'clock. Both those games are on TNT tonight. Usually, the teams that win these go out in the first round, although 2 years ago, the Lakers went to the conference final and the Heat went to the NBA finals. So it doesn't look like any of these teams are really built to do that. I guess the Warriors have the best chance, but when they really needed to win here at the end of the year to avoid the play-in, they lost 2 out of 3. And now Steph Curry has some kind of thumb issue, so how will the Warriors do? We find out tonight at 8.
Good luck.
DJ at PK.
#NFL.
I'd love to see Travis Hunter there, not for the reasons of the Jaguars need a player like Travis Hunter with the swagger. No. We need guys that can play football. And I'll say this, I watched a highlight film of Will Campbell today, the LSU lineman that seems to be able to play almost any position. Doesn't have the length that they talked about, long arms like I probably had, or Ben Coleman or Baselli did, but he can play football. Mason Graham had 2 outstanding games this year, had issues throughout his most important collegiate football season, and I would never risk a 5th pick overall on a player like Mason Graham.
Wow.
Even though we could use the help at interior defensive line.
That's former Jaguars offensive lineman Davey Whittle, and we are into NFL draft season. It's its own thing, PK. It is quite the show. Everybody's got an opinion on who should be taken and who shouldn't.
Okay.
Former Miami quarterback Cam Ward and Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter headline the 17 players scheduled to attend the NFL Draft in Green Bay next week. Shedeur Sanders not in attendance, as he had stated previously. Jackson Dart, former Corner Canyon Charger, scheduled to be in Green Bay. The Ole Miss quarterback will be there, as will Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe.
Your boy, the Herd, man, he hates Dart. Said he's going to be another Zach Wilson. Man.
Says he doesn't play an NFL offense, and there's going to be a big old learning curve. I've heard that from multiple draft analysts. We'll see if that turns out to be true.
So the Herd is a draft analyst now?
Sure, yeah. I guess the question is, will he go to a team that Green Bay, where you can sit a quarterback 2 or 3 years? Or is he going to get drafted by a team that needs somebody right away? Will he go in the first round? Will he slide to the second? The fact they invited him makes it sound like he won't slide to the second, but I have seen mock drafts where there's only 3 quarterbacks, and he hasn't been one of them. Former NFL tight end Don Hasselbeck, father of NFL quarterbacks Matt and Tim Hasselbeck, passed away at the age of 70 after going into cardiac arrest at his home yesterday. He won a Super Bowl with the Raiders in 1983. And Raiders star Max Crosby has been named an assistant general manager for the Eastern Michigan football program. Crosby is the first active NFL player to hold the position. He'll help Eastern Michigan evaluate high school and portal prospects, manage its NIL budget, and serve as a special assistant to fundraising, alumni relations, and student-athlete support. Getting ready for a career after football, maybe.
And advise them where to get tats.
Oh, yes. Excellent point. Excellent point.
He knows all the best tat places.
That'll fall under student-athlete support. DJ and PK.
#college football.
Need a running back? Cal Bears Jay Knott entered the transfer portal, graduate transfer. Immediately goes right to the list of talent on the open market. He produced 3,640 all-purpose yards at Cal. Is it really the open market, PK, or do you suspect when he goes that he already knows where he's going to land?
Oh, I have no idea. Obviously you do, but I don't.
I would suspect he already knows where he's going to land.
I thought you were leading the witness.
Colorado's going to retire the jerseys of Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders Saturday during their spring game.
Why wouldn't they? It's been 3 months. I mean, they had an illustrious career. I think they went 13-12 with them. Where would they be without those guys?
Exactly. Heisman Trophy winner, though. He's going to get his jersey.
Yeah, but
retired.
they should have done it in the last game of the season. Why wait? They knew they were going to kick the crap out of Oklahoma State. Should have done it right then. Take it off his back. They didn't even need him to play. They were going to win. They won like 50-0, something like that. Should have done it right there. Then he could have watched the rest of the game bare-chested. Come on, Colorado's about publicity. They really blew it on this one.
Bare-chested.
Yeah, my favorite type of chest.
Hey, did you see a college football list rolling around on CBS? Got to get to that coming up, don't we?
I love lists. I mean, come on.
I know
and we don't have to wait. We don't have to draw it out. Your best player in the state is Spencer Fano.
And there it is.
So we can go through the dog and pony show. Well, and I know it's not a glamorous position, offensive lineman for Utah, but this kid is a high caliber player who will go in the first round.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Riley at the plate, and Riley jolts one high in the air, deep to left field. That's a long gone daddy. A 3-run homer. And it's 8-0 Braves as Austin Riley is on a rampage.
1-1 the count. Pitch. Swung on, hit in the air, a mile high to right center field. Buxton's on the run. Back to the warning track. He turns. It is gone. It just cleared the 23-foot wall in right center field. Tatis swings, hits it in the air, deep to left field. Haps going back. He's at the wall, looking up. It's going to go! Second of the night for Fernando. A 2-run homer here in the 8th, and it's 8-4.
Highlights from around Major League Baseball right there. Fernando Tatis goes deep twice. Powers the Padres to another victory. Also, you heard the Braves up 8-0. They win 8-4. They have now, after that 0-7 start, 5-4 in their last 9 games, so playing a little better ball after a horrific start. High expectations for the Braves. Dodgers beat the Rockies. Is that the least surprising thing you've seen? The best team in baseball? The worst team in baseball when we get to 162 games? Or will there be somebody worse than the Rockies?
I'm not looking at standings just yet here. I was watching the game. Shohei, 98-mile-an-hour fastball, gone, dead center field, man. Jeez. And plus, this kid, he hit a ground ball at second base, kind of in the hole between first and second. And he runs so fast, the second baseman knew he had to get rid of it, blah, 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 and he couldn't do it. And watching him play, I mean, and Japanese don't play this sport traditionally, but he could be an NFL player. He's huge. He's got a motor. Man, he is really, really a special, not just a baseball player, but an athlete.
You see him as a tight end?
Whatever.
Linebacker? Safety?
DN, put some lower weight on him, which, they do. He's got the size and speed and agility. He's worth the price of admission unto himself, that's for sure.
His 5th homer of the year. Soto hit his 2nd. How many home runs does Soto have to hit to justify the deal he got with the Mets, you think? What's a number where people say, yep, that's a good investment, he had a good year, and what's the number where the Mets blew it again?
Well, I think it's about winning. I don't think it's about personal stats here, because he could be pitched around, and I never look at raw numbers. I know that's your thing. That's not mine. There's many, many different ways he can help a team win without producing specific stats, because if they want to pitch around him, then he won't have very many. But what does he do to augment the lineup, and how does it help, and how much do they win?
Well, so far so good on the winning front. They're winning 2 out of 3, a little better than that. They're off to an 11-5 start, so it's been a good 2 or 3 weeks here as they get going. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
bouncing puck cushioned down by Kerfoot. He steps in down the left wall. Kerfoot back to the point, spun across by Sergachev. Dangerous pass, but there's Kesselring. He opens fire and scores! Michael Kesselring shoots a laser post it in, and we're tied at 1. Keller, right face-off dot, surveying the menu. Schmaltz again, another one-timer. This one finds the back of the net. Nick Schmaltz makes it 4-1 on the 5-on-3. Keller gains the blue line for Utah, walks it over to the right wing. Utah in the offensive zone, the captain's pass broken up. Keller gets it back, it tips in, and they score! Clayton Keller puts Utah up by 2. The captain does it all himself.
Utah Hockey Club builds a 4-1 lead, lets most of it slip away, 4-3 going to the third, but they score 3 times, and they win 7-3. Clayton Keller, 2 goals, 2 assists in the blowout victory. He's got 29 goals on the season. The finale is tonight. He needs 1 more for the 30-goal season. Logan Cooley added a goal and 2 assists of his own. 89 points now for Utah as they finish the season pretty strong. The Blues tonight to wrap it up.
Yeah, this reminds me of that season a few years back when the Jazz had a real good after All-Star break. Didn't make the playoffs, but they were playing important games to them, and it set the tone for them making it the following year. And I believe that was when they won a first-round series against the Clippers in 7 games, if I remember correctly. And I see a lot of parallels here that these guys are going to be, you always have a little bit of a letdown. Bill Armstrong was talking about that last night on the pregame show. Will Hardy was talking about that too yesterday. When the season ends, it's a funky feeling whether you don't make the playoff or when if you should lose in the playoff. I guess if you should win it all too, for that matter, because it's so intense, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's abruptly over. But I think that the way this team is playing, it's giving them momentum that literally can carry into next season. And it's important for them to do well, and they are doing well. And we saw that with the Jazz, with that, what was it, like 2015, 16, somewhere in there?
Somewhere in there, it was Quinn's second year.
Yeah, where they played well down the stretch. And that led to them winning 50 games or so the next year. And I think it was that type of stuff was important at the end of the year in March and April. Same thing with the hockey club here.
They were able to rationalize the slower start because Gobert had an injury and then played great the second half of the season. He was just coming into his own. So you can look at the same thing here with the multiple injuries Utah had, especially to several defensemen, and now they played much better later in the year. There are definitely a lot of parallels between the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Tonight, Game 82. It all ends here. You can listen to the game right here on The Zone as they play the St. Louis Blues. 5 o'clock for the pregame. The puck will drop on the season finale at 6 o'clock. That is what is trending. It's brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. All right, coming up, Mike Folta, Utah Hockey Club radio play-by-play voice, will join us at 8:30. Shehan Jeyarajah, CBS Sports National College Football writer, will join us at 9 o'clock. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The question of the day is coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Speaking of hockey, that win over the Winnipeg Jets, I was just floored. And we're getting these tweets from Sly during the game. Because he got his...
Who had a great time.
Because then he's sending us the Jets suck, text during the middle of the when it was the end of the second period and they're up 3-0. I was like, no, they don't. They're the best team in hockey. And that's the part that makes you feel good about this team. It was such an exceptional game by this team. And it was so fun to watch. Coach Tourney actually told us this at one point during the last couple weeks. He goes, we're a way different team than this team faced a month ago.
Yeah.
Right? And he said it about a couple of times when they would get these wins that people are like, oh, wow, that was unexpected. It's like, no, they're a better team now. They've become a better team over the season. And so it's awesome to see these young guys getting the recognition that they deserve.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK. A reminder, join Hans and Scotty live Friday from noon to 3 at Bar W Beef. The new state-of-the-art retail butcher shop supporting Utah farmers and ethical farming practices, all at supermarket prices. That's Bar W Beef, only in Nephi. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Well, we reference this during what is trending in the college football segment. CBSSports.com is ranking the top 150 college football players for the upcoming season. Utah quarterback Devin Dampier is 63. Jake Retzlaff is 100. Is that more disrespect for the quarterback who went 11-2 last season?
I can't believe it.
To clarify one thing, they've since updated this. Actually, 62 and 99.
Did somebody go pro in front of him? What happened?
They moved Nico Iamaleava down, I believe. I think that moved everything up.
Regardless, the separation is still the same. And that's
Yes,
even more disrespect. You had time to think about it. You revised it, and you only moved him up one spot. That's even adding insult to the injury. That's pouring salt on the wound.
Give me another one. Come on, I know you can do it.
If I'm BYU, I announce today we're retiring his jersey.
Nice.
You going to do it game one?
Now.
Oh, just do it right now. Okay.
Yeah. Drum up some publicity. I'm sick of Kevin Young sucking all the oxygen out of the room down there at BYU.
Come on, Kalani.
Do it. Guy went 11-2. What more do you want?
Well, 16-0.
No. That's fantasy land. You're not at that level.
True story. Ohio State won it all, and they lost 2 games. Oregon lost once, and they were out in the quarters.
Jerks.
Speaking of Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith is number 1, the Ohio State wide receiver.
What's he got on Jordan Tyson? Absolutely nothing.
Greg doesn't buy Dampier at 63, now 62. Dampier was slicing and dicing through the Hawaiis and Nevadas of the college football powers.
Wasn't in Mountain West. That's faux show.
He was. Just saw somebody who transferred out of the Big Sky slicing and dicing through the Big 12. So it's possible.
Not his first year.
Gonna need a little transition time.
We shall see.
Melody, underestimating BYU in the Big 12 seems like it's going to be a thing again.
That's an epidemic. I don't think there's any question about that. Most disrespected conference in the land. Yeah, I said it. In the land.
Garrett, very disrespectful for a self-proclaimed Heisman candidate.
He wants to win the Heisman. What are we going to do, criticize him? No, I don't want to win the Heisman. Nah, not at all. I'm not going to strive for that. No, I'm going to try to be mediocre.
I'd like to come in 17th.
Yeah, I mean, come on. High aspirations. When you won 11 ball games and lost only 2 by like a total of 9 points, what else should you think?
Matthew, I love this list. Keep disrespecting Retzlaff. He seems to like that, and my money is on him. The proverbial chip on the shoulder.
Yeah. And for the record, New Mexico did not play Nevada last year.
Aha! So while he may have sliced and diced through Hawaii, he did not slice and dice through the Wolfpack.
Mexico actually lost to Hawaii last year, so I don't know that he sliced and diced through Hawaii.
Well, what was the score?
87-2.
Okay, it was not
It's
that.
not 87-2.
They went to Hawaii with a chance to go bowl eligible.
And they didn't get it done.
Got beat pretty good.
Right. And how long did it take Retzlaff to get bowl eligible? 6 measly games. And what did he do against Utah? Time running out, the most hostile environment ever. And what did he do? Boom, 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 field goal. Yeah, let me tell you, I was happy to be in the Big 12.
See what you did there.
Yes, I was.
What you're saying is that game was not stolen from you.
I mean, all the complaining, all they had to do is get another stop, and maybe one more stop, and you probably win the game. Wretched refs. Big 12 refs suck. I've been saying that for years. They lost to Hawaii 38-30. And Big Dampier had passed for 176 yards.
Aha! How many did he run for?
4,650.
It's not true.
And once he gets around that edge, in Hawaii, too, it's really tough because their field, it's not even the full 45 yards. So to get around the edge is even harder. Very condensed field. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. They put some bleachers up at a practice field. Go look it up. Field.
I know, but I didn't know it wasn't for. I thought it was supposed to be 53 yards wide for starters.
It's 52.5, but who's counting?
There it is.
Oh, I got that confused with the basketball 45 feet.
Yep.
It happens. What are you going to do?
Eldon. I'm not worried about this list. Everyone has their own opinion. Eldon just shrugs it off. Not going to get him all rattled in April.
I am just, I'm extremely worried about this list.
On the list of things you're worried about, this goes right to the top.
Yes. I mean, come on. Why wouldn't you be worried about this list? All this disrespect. He ran for 101 yards against Hawaii. His longest was 15 yards. See, it was very difficult to get around the edge because the field is only like 47 yards. It's condensed.
Nice. Just making stuff up left and right.
Well, that's what he does. That's exactly what he does. He makes stuff up on the fly, left and right. I'm just trying to stay within the parameters of Devin Dampier.
You had a kid.
Right.
Good work.
Right, exactly. You know, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go straight? Very difficult to make those decisions on the fly, and that's what he had to do. I honestly don't see how you have Retzlaff so low. He went 11-2. Doesn't that count for anything?
Yeah, counts for a little bit. That's why he's in the top 100.
Apparently not enough.
Aren't you a little surprised that they were both in the top 100?
The guy went 11-2. Why would I be surprised?
Because he's not in the SEC or the Big Ten, and I thought they would dominate this list.
They probably do, but so what? I mean, CBS Sports they're not a mouthpiece for the Big Ten and the SEC. No, I just don't default to that. That's too easy. No, I think he should have been higher. He won 11 games. I guarantee you Shedeur Sanders, if he had eligibility left, would have been much higher, and BYU kicked the crap out of them. Makes no sense. He deserves to be higher.
Would you have been satisfied with top 50, top 25?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, yeah. Amen. Yeah, for sure. Or at least top 62. I think this is a sign of disrespect. And he's going to feed off of it, man. You just got to keep the main thing, and then you'll be okay. You keep the main thing, and you're just worried about football. You don't worry about all the other stuff. You just keep the main thing.
Hey, he's got a little adrenaline when he does interviews.
I fully expect that to be an answer at some point this year.
I'm going to work on things. I'm going to work on my passing. My passing is going to improve. I'm going to be better than what I was last year because I'm going to keep the main thing. And we're going to win football games. We're going to move that ball down the field. That's all we're going to do. We're going to not put the defense in bad positions. We're going to keep the main thing. I love it here. Geez, a Russian and a Jewish person walk into BYU. Boom. And they turn the football and basketball program upside down. It's amazing. Truly I mean, the forecasts and the prophecies have simply come true. The world literally is their campus now, and you doubted. Not me. I've been on board from day one, since I was born, even before that.
Borrowing liberally from Morgan Scally. Just run them all together. It's a mashup of the greatest hits.
Think about this, man. He saw that list. I guarantee he's seen it. I mean, he's still going to keep football the main thing, but nevertheless, he's got to provide a little motivation. And your rival, guy who hasn't taken one snap, is 30-some spots better than you? Oh, man. If I'm BYU after they get back cruising, I would post that thing all over the place. I'd put it, I'd replace the U logo in the urinals with this one. Oh, wait, that was Urban the other way around. Still okay, then I would put it in there. Yeah, I'd put it in the urinals and the commodes. Bleep on them, literally. What do you think?
I don't want to get in the way of a guy who's on a roll. That's what I think.
This is supreme motivation. Thank you, CBS Sports. Jeez. When we do the worst 60 players in Utah and BYU history, I think we might as well put him on the list.
Okay, that's a little over the top.
I thrive on the negative. Forget with this positive stuff. Jeez. Who needs positive motivation? That don't get you anywhere. You need negative, man. That's what feeds the beast, to be able to sit there and say disrespect. Oh, and I got up early this morning and recounted 3 or 4 times I was disrespected just yesterday. Are you kidding me?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
If you don't have an enemy, how do you get through a day?
Right. And then if I don't have one, I just turn to you. I was like your 9th choice to do this show. Don't you think I've ever forgotten it? What makes you so special?
You've brought it up a few times.
Yeah.
You were 3rd.
Oh, great. I feel so good about it. And you were 1st. La-di-da. What a joke that was.
I wasn't exactly 1st.
Right, because you own the freaking thing. You didn't even have to have a number. It was a guaranteed lock. Get out of my town. Get out of my face. I'm Retzlaff. I'm fired up, man. He's talking about it. I mean, it's funny. He talks about the Heisman. Jason Beck says, well, the kid only completed like 55, 58% of his passes or something. He's got to be better than that. So they're going to set goals for that. But Retzlaff, he sets a goal? No, Jason Beck for Devin Dampier said that he's got to be better. I asked him specifically. When he was a quarterback in New Mexico, he's got to have a better passing percentage. So he sets the thing. He had his season stats of passing, 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Is that mind-blowing? I don't think so.
Nope. But it's the how many rushing touchdowns on top of that? Was it 19? It was a lot.
Well,
you probably got the numbers in front of you.
I don't have the numbers. You still have to throw the ball to win in this league.
Yep. True story. And both coordinators have put down the goal for their guys about improving. And we had A-Rod on, and he said the goal's 70%. It
was 1,166 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Man, they won 5 games.
Well, it goes back to what you're saying about Juan Soto earlier in the hour. You know, it's about the winning, but it's also about the team and what everybody does around you.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is both of these quarterbacks had the same completion percentage last year, 57.9.
And it's the team around them, and they produced a whopping 6 points against Colorado State.
Oof.
I think Retzlaff deserves more acclaim than what he got. And I canceled my subscription to CBS Sports. I've actually, and off my television too, anything related to CBS, I've dumped.
You're boycotting
over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got rid of it. I simply got rid of it. I'm not. Nothing. That's why I didn't. Fortunately, the list didn't come out till Monday, so I was able to watch the Masters.
You would have had to make an exception.
Yes.
Hold it.
I gotta watch the guy from my dad's fatherland, the homeland.
And mine too.
Our roots.
I'm a proud Irishman. You kidding me? Yeah, my grandfather, born and raised there. Before he came over, he gave me his name. Way to go. I don't know if Retzlaff can complete 70%, though. That seems, and I get it. If you're going to set a goal, set a goal that is maybe a little bit out of your reach. So if you get 68.
But if they offered, I was going to say if they offered A-Rod 65% right now, I bet he takes it.
Yeah. So the goal setting should be above that. If you come close enough, that's probably going to be good enough, and you're probably going to win a lot of games.
Set your goals very high, and if you miss it, you might still end up in a really good place.
Yeah. I mean, this is such an important year for BYU because I can't say that anybody can roll out 11 wins and anybody can have a season. I'm not going to go that high.
But people will look at the program differently if they back 11 wins up with another big number.
They will.
If they go out and go 7-6, lots of teams have a year, then have a good year, then are down, then have to bounce back.
Right.
If you do it back to back, you're automatically going to separate yourself from 80 or 90% of college football.
Right. Right. And I do think those things matter in recruiting. You can go back, and I know Ben Olsen, it didn't turn out that way because of a whole bunch of other circumstances, including injuries. But he talked about when he made his commitment that they were coming off that great season with Brandon Doman and Luke Staley, if I remember correctly, and their offense was on fire that year. And so that caught his eye and caught his attention. And everything changed, obviously, and it didn't work. But that was something that drew him to the program, was the program success, which only makes sense. Of course it would. So if they roll out there a second consecutive big-time season, because that 11-2 was a big-time season. There's no other way around it. That was a big-time season. And one loss, a bad loss. I don't think the loss to ASU was a bad loss. The Devils had a phenomenal season themselves, and obviously came within a play or two of making the Final Four. And so you went down there and you lost by what was it, 4 points, something like that. And so that you can't really criticize the Cougars for that whatsoever. I don't think so. I mean, because there's going to be a winner and loser in every game. They didn't compete as well in the first half, but in the second half they dominated. And, if the game would have lasted 5 more minutes, they probably win. Or if Westlaff doesn't throw that pick, they probably win. And can he learn from that? Most definitely. He's thrown, 3 picks. It's funny. I outside of maybe a couple of plays, I can remember 3 devastating picks that he's had. The Kansas, the ASU, and the year before against Oklahoma. And, what can he do to eliminate those plays? I believe he can because he seems like he's a pretty bright guy. And unless I'm wrong, I really believe he's going to keep the main thing.
Yeah. Well, he improved a lot in the last offseason, so it stands to reason he can improve again in this offseason.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Let's see this list at the end of the year.
Now you're talking.
CBS Sports.
And you did mention there's one other. The 2 quarterbacks made the list, and the only other player from the state at number 21, Spencer Fano.
What do you mean the only other player from what list?
Were there any other Utes and Cougars on this list?
Top 50? Yeah, I think Lander Barton was on that list at 139.
Oh, I was looking top 100. I did not. Yeah, okay.
Did they go 150 or 100?
They did go 150, I think.
Yeah.
I zipped through the bottom. I did not see anyone after the QBs, but
right. And I think the top. I don't have the list in front of me. I should get it. But the top Big 12 player, I think, was
your quarterback.
Yeah,
it was Sam Levitt at 8.
Yeah.
Sam Levitt was 8. Number 1 in your heart, PK, but number 8 on the list.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, obviously, man, this kid has got a ton of run. And why did he get a ton of run? Because they won. And they basically had the same season as BYU.
Right, but back to the numbers that Jake was sharing with us about the 57% completion percentage, which, now we have
57.9.
57.9, and we got two coordinators at rival schools both saying that number's got to go up.
Sure.
Leavitt was at 62%.
Right. And
24 touchdowns and only 6 picks.
Great. And what did he do most of the time? He turned around and handed it off to the human wrecking machine.
He did run for 443 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Oh, he was great. I mean, there's no doubt about it, particularly since it was his first year. He played 4 games the prior year at Michigan State, and so retained his redshirt. I don't think it's going to matter because I think he'll go pro after this year anyway. But I'm just saying that everybody knows he had Scattabooyah, who was so freaking dominant. There doesn't seem like there should be one's 8 and one's 92. That seems like the gap is extremely wide there.
Full of Big Ten and SEC players.
It's not a knock on Leavitt by any stretch. It's more of a disrespect towards Retzlaff. That's the point.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Stay with us. Mike Folta coming up on the morning of the final regular season game of the year for the Utah Hockey Club. He's going to join us at 8:30 right here on The Zone. And BYU basketball landing a major commitment. We will get to that coming up at 8 o'clock. What kind of an impact is it going to make? We'll get to that. And PK, Caleb Lomu from the offensive tackle Utah was 126 on the list. So shout out to another local guy.
Yeah, he's another NFL kid.
Yeah. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Yesterday we listened to the press conferences, season enders for Will Hardy and for Justin Zanik. They ran through their assessments of players. I didn't hear any big surprises. Maybe heard some specifics talked about I hadn't before. So conditioning and off-season conditioning is going to be an issue for the Jazz with a couple of the young guys, Isaiah Collier and Bryce Sensabaugh. So, and then also this summer, your rookie summer is only like half a summer. I mean, these guys are all done. It's mid-April. They can have their week off and still get in 2 months of work before we get to the NBA draft. So whatever time they had last year, they got a lot more this year. More time ought to equal more improvement, right?
Well, I think they had the same amount of time last year. Everyone has the same amount of time. It's just that it wasn't with the Jazz.
Right. And so, they were doing workouts.
Right. I mean,
as opposed to working on individual skills or whatever.
I think they can work on individual skills too. I think you can do both. It's just that it wasn't supervised and basically choreographed by the Jazz, by whichever team, because they didn't know which team they were going to go to. It wasn't like they were sitting around, but I think they were working on their game. If they weren't, and then they were sorely misled about what they should be doing and mistaken. But here, get back in the gym as soon as possible, get back in the weight room, and I really appreciate what Will Hardy did. He went through the young guys, one by one, and said what they need to do. Basically, I took from that with Keontae George, shot selection and defense. Those types of things are important, and Sensabaugh. I always thought Sensabaugh looked a little flabby. And Jerry Sloan used to hit on that all the time. Listening to Will Hardy, I can envision Jerry Sloan talking about that when he would say that so many times about guys as far as getting in shape to be able to allow you to perform at your most premium level, and physical conditioning and strength and all those types of things were necessary on that. I thought they downplayed Cody Williams' disappointing season a little bit.
Wrote it off to him not being strong enough. Okay, so you can put on some weight in the off season, and then that'll fix everything, and it'll be much more impressive.
No, he's got to get better. But that's what I said. I thought they downplayed it a little bit, but it was so disappointing that I don't think they wanted to bury him. So I think there was a reason for it.
He's already disappointed enough, so play the psychological game and don't beat him up in public.
Right. I can't say that it was a waste, because maybe for him it was necessary to go through, just in the terms of, we talked about this with Rory McIlroy. Maybe it was necessary for him to have those bitter disappointments that allowed him to be mentally tough in the moments that he needed to be on Sunday and really from Thursday through Sunday, missing that shorter putt on 18 in regulation and then coming back and being mentally tough enough to get the ball in the fairway and to get the ball into a position to where there was a high probability, 80, 95%, that he would make that putt to win it, and he did. Nothing that Justin Rose didn't do. It's just something that Rory McIlroy did. And so I would imagine that all that stuff and the hard times and whatnot and not making putts last year at the U.S. Open and then storming out with no interviews, all that stuff he was able to benefit from. So if Cody Williams can benefit from this disastrous rookie season, then so be it, because what better time to have it when the team's trying to lose anyway? And then when the team is prepared to win in 2 or 3 years, whenever that may be, and he's 215, 220 pounds, or whatever they decide he needs to put on, and he puts on, and he grows up, just maturity because he's so young, then he's ready to go. So it won't be a disappointment, and maybe he can draw from that. See what's inside. What's the kid, the proverbial, see what Jerry Sloan, let's see what we're made of now.
Man. He would tap on the heart before a draft. He'd be talking about it, and he says, we analyze a lot of things, and then he'd tap on his heart. He goes, but you never know what's in here.
Right. And so what's in there? We saw with Hayward, he was a gangly kid, and he wasn't. Van Horn was a gangly kid 30 years ago when he came to college, and he played all 4 years, so that's a big difference there. And by the time he left, he wasn't. He was a strong man who was worthy of the second pick of the draft. Yegor Denham, he's a gangly 6'9" right now, right? And he looks like he's 12 years old. What's he going to be in 4 or 5 years? That's where you're at with this kid, so I'm not ready to bury him whatsoever. And I like what Hardy did with all the other guys, and he talked about Kessler, or maybe it was Justin who said that there's still more to go, and he meant that from the positive, and Kessler knows that. That's what's exciting. The season sucked from that standpoint, but it was supposed to suck. But there's enough tantalizing intrigue with several of these guys to say, hey, maybe we have something here. Let's see what we got, combined with the players that they pick up in the draft and anybody they may sign over the summer. So it's down right now. They had the worst record in the league, obviously, for the first time ever, but I don't think it's entirely bleak.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We'll take a break. When we come back, all right, they've got him. How much better is he going to be, and how much better is he going to make them? We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. That will celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
Question up on our Facebook page, DJ and PK. How much better will Rob Wright make BYU basketball?
Better make him a ton better.
For $3 million?
Well, I don't know what
impact.
Yeah, I don't know what he's getting, but basically, Dallin Hall, one of your own, was cast aside, and you look at the makeup of the roster. Those types of kids, they don't have a lot of spots on that roster anymore. And I think that's going to raise an eyebrow or two. So if you're going to bring in Rob Wright, he better be way better than Dallin Hall, because you already had Dallin Hall, who put in 3 loyal years of service, committed to you when you were West Coast Conference, stayed with you, had a coaching change, still stayed with you. And maybe it was his choice all along to go, and he was looking to go either way. But I wonder if he was getting 30 minutes a game, would he have want to have left his family and everybody around him and literally go on the other side of the country?
30 minutes a game and $3 million. My guess is he would have stayed.
Yeah, I don't know about the money.
I didn't talk to him, so it has to be a guess.
But if you're gonna recruit over a local return missionary, the kid better be way good, and maybe he is, and good for BYU.
You got to get that right.
I mean, Kevin Young is charged with winning basketball games. That's first and foremost. They can claim they're different all they want. They love to tell you they're different, but at the same time, the difference being other areas, they're about winning basketball games. And at least Kevin Young is, and that's essentially what he's paid for. And so he brings in this kid from Baylor, And we had Steve Cleveland say yesterday, why is he coming? Money's got to be a factor. I don't necessarily think it's the only factor by any stretch, but it's got to be a factor.
How much better will Rob Wright make BYU basketball? Aaron says Final Four better. Let's go.
Let's go.
Hits the exclamation point. Of course he does.
It'll be interesting because they will have a lot of changeover, and at least Kevin Young and his staff won't be brand new to the situation like they were last year. So I don't think that they will struggle early on like they did. What were they, 2-4, and then 6-6, and then they really took off. I mean, I have complete and total faith and confidence in Kevin Young to be able to run a big-time basketball program. I don't think that's any question. I think he's already proven it, and he's only get better. His staff is going to get better as they get more familiar with everybody and so forth. But there is still, for a team that did very, very well, there's still going to be a lot of change. But I guess maybe that's not entirely the case in college basketball, but it also isn't that unusual now anyway.
I think it's mostly the case, right?
Yeah, I mean you always have change anyway in college just by nature of the 4 years.
Right, and now with so many transfers, you're not keeping guys together for 4 years. And when you see these rosters, whether it's Houston or it's Auburn, it's Iowa State, there's just so many juniors and seniors. You try to keep a core of guys together, but there are always multiple new guys who have to fit in.
Yeah, and the best player, the most ballyhooed prospect ever in Dybantsa, he has to come through with a big-time season. He just simply has to.
Has to.
Yeah. He can't. And there's been players that in October and in the prior summer are projected 5, 6, 7 in the NBA draft, and then they go to college and it doesn't work out, and they drop. They drop a lot. Maybe even out of the draft. But I know, and I can name names of kids that went in with high expectations and credentials, and it didn't work, and they plummet in the draft. And some of them don't even make it in the league. So with that in mind, with this kid can't be a Jake Heaps. And I hate to pile on Jake on that, but Jake had a lot of publicity, and this kid has taken it up 10 times as high. We laugh at the Iggy's thing. Well, he goes on ESPN and does it.
Yeah, Iggy's has been topped.
Yeah.
I guess it can't be topped for creativity, its unusualness. But, man, as far as the stage and a platform, I mean, you're sitting across the table from Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. It's second to none.
Basically just telling him why he's wrong. Listen, old man, you're wrong. And Stephen A.'s looking at him like, really? The kid's going to come at me with this attitude. Interesting.
Oh, I think he loved it. I think the guy actually likes to be challenged.
Yeah.
Stephen A. thrives on it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a New Yorker. I mean, come on. Those are my people.
Yeah.
So you like that give and take. You live for that give and take.
Yeah. Well, a couple weeks later, it was him and LeBron on the baseline, right? So,
yeah.
Plenty of high-profile examples.
And then we know what the kid has done since as far as ingratiating himself with BYU fans. It's like he's one of their own. They love him. He loves them, and he's pumping them left and right. So Rob Wright comes in and sees this, and I get if I'm Rob Wright, the money's the money, right? And I don't know the figures, nor do I know what he was getting at Baylor. I have to assume it was a raise, but he's looking at himself. He's a small point guard, right? He's undersized.
He's listed at 6'1", 183.
Right. Now, when I say undersized, now I'm not specifically saying for college. I'm talking about the professionals, the NBA. Mm-hmm. But if he comes in and dazzles and makes Dybantsa, and I assume Richie Saunders is going to come back. I don't think there's going to be a formal announcement. But if that he's feeding those guys with all sorts of great passes and playing the position the way it needs to be played and defending the heck out of opposing point guards, that's going to increase his stock. And that's a good situation. I can see why he would be interested in this, to have guys like those two on the wings coming down with you, with you having the ball and running the offense. As long as you're not looking to come in and score 20 a game, which, I assume that he understands what he's getting into, and it's a good thing to get into this, that he has the opportunity to really flourish in his own right and enhance his stock.
I think all those things are true. He was an okay shooter, but not very good. I mean, 41%, 35% from three. He had the 4 assists, the 2 turnovers, and I'm sure, the pitch to him, he probably doesn't even need a pitch to him, is with those 2 guys scoring that you point out, right? If Saunders is back and with AJ coming in, the floor is going to open up. You're going to have a chance to drive and finish. It's not like I had time to sit around and watch a lot of Baylor basketball, because I didn't. But you're right about his size. And does he have a problem finishing against bigger guys? Why did he only shoot 41%? Well, these 2 guys could really open up the floor with him. Those are 2 guys you're not going to want to help off of. And if you do, he needs to be a good enough passer to find him. So this really could open things up for him.
Yeah, and he was just a freshman last year, playing probably the most difficult position on the court, running the offense. So I can't really look at those. And I saw Baylor play a number of times because of Edgecombe. And I have a Wooden Award vote. So, and plus they're in the conference, they're playing BYU. So there's multiple reasons. And the fact that winter nights you can't do anything else, so you might as well sit there and try to learn some stuff, and it's going to help you in your employment. And plus, it's fun to do.
If they play early, right? It's the Jazz, it's the hockey club, it's the Utes, the Cougars, and the Aggies.
I don't sit there and watch all of the games, but I do watch a lot of them. That's not. I don't. When I mean all of the games, I mean from start to finish. They're and the Big 12 basketball is just fun to watch. You can feel the energies in the arenas that they have, and the crowds are great and all that type of stuff. So it's a fun thing. I'm very grateful that I have this job to be able to call that work and essentially doing research as you're watching these games. So I've seen him play a lot. And, he is a freshman, or was a freshman, so I didn't necessarily have high standards to where I think, oh, my gosh, he can't do this, he can't do that. It looks like he's a player, and they have a great need because they lost all 3 of their guys who play that position. Crawford, Hall, and Demon all take off for various reasons. And so you need somebody. They may need even somebody beyond him. We'll see what they do. They're not done yet, obviously. The roster's still probably a month or so away from being solidified, and even then you can add some players. So I'm okay with him coming in. I just think that, boy, you're giving up Dallin Hall as a senior for this kid, and he better be good. And maybe they're not giving him up. Maybe Hall was intent on leaving. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm out the door. I don't know that. But on the surface, it looks like you're losing a staple of a BYU, what BYU is about, bringing in this kid. Not to say this kid can't be that type of person, because certainly he can be and all that. I mean, Demon, the great thing about Demon and what he did last week with the press conference and what he said is that there's a lot of skeptics out there who say, yeah, BYU is just paying these dudes money. I wrote about it. That Wolken on USA Today sports columnist said not about the money or not the highest bidder. Come on. Complete and total skepticism on that. Well, the great thing about Yegor, and he basically had a testimony of BYU, is that you could say, and Travis Hansen's been doing this since, is that the kid was more than the money. It was more than the money. It was about the BYU experience, and he talked about faith, and he talked about commitment to BYU and how they can develop you on and off the court. So for all the skeptics out there, and there's plenty of them, and I'm sort of in that boat, not completely, but I think they can point to them and say, listen, look at it isn't completely and solely the money. Look at what he said. Read the words that came out of his mouth. And he talked about faith, and his faith grew. Doesn't matter that he's not a member of the faith. That's not the issue. The fact is his faith grew. He said that very thing last week, and they can point to that. You can scoff all you want at us, but look at this kid. Listen to what he just said. And that's a great thing. That's something, that's ammunition against all their critics because they've been trying to, come back at all the critics with the social media posts and Jay Drew talking to one of the VPs and quoting him and saying, now, we're not really about trying to outbid us. That quote is sort of hanging on them, and they're trying to rebuke that quote and debunk that quote. And as much as they try, I think that leads to, wait a second, you're sure crying wolf a lot, and makes me think that it's even more so because you're trying to convince me that it isn't so. Well, what they should do is be quiet and just say, just go talk to Yegor Demon and listen to what he had to say.
That would be good. They could also just pivot, and I did see some of the posts from Travis addressing this issue. And to me, don't refute it. It's more about pivoting. Like, you have to go back to Agor and say, and as a recruiter, and I don't know the recruiting instincts of all these guys coming from the NBA, but you have some traditional college guys on the staff, and they know how to recruit, right? As a recruiter, like, ask Agor if the money was good. Ask Agor if his life on the court in the gym with the team was good. Ask Agor if his time away from the team outside of the gym on campus was good. Now ask him those three things, because isn't that what everybody wants? You want a good experience on the court. You want a good experience off the court. And these days in college sports, you want to get paid. And I think, judging from what we've seen Agor say, that the answer to all three of those questions works in BYU's favor.
Yeah, I agree.
So don't worry about the one specific quote. Just say, was your life on the court good? Was your life off the court good? And did you get paid the way you said you were? Because we are hearing more and more stories of guys who want more or didn't get what they were promised. Those are out there, and we're probably only hearing a percentage of them. And then say, Agor's just one guy. Go talk to the quarterback on the football team. Just the two of you. I'm not there. Whatever he says about his life on and off the field, I believe. Go talk to him.
Does Retzlaff have, what Yegor? Because what Yegor had can be summed up in 3 words. Delaney.
I don't know about that. You go find someone who wants to talk to college kids about that, because you're not that guy and I'm not that guy. We're not hanging out with the 20-year-olds.
Who's Kamard recruiting?
Hey now.
They're playing complimentary basketball.
They are playing complimentary basketball. That is as one of our former producers said, that's a true fact.
I know, a complimentary basketball. Remind me to tell you a story offline about that very thing happening.
Are you on the air there?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. Complimentary basketball, man. Hey, geez, come on. Wow. Way to go, guys. Yeah. Denham was a complete and total success story. He was a success story, I actually think, more than his production on the court. And he produced well. He had some shaky moments, but he's just a freshman and coming over and all that stuff. And he got better as the season progressed. And I believe he'll go. I said this last week. He'll go higher than we expect because people are just going to be tantalized by the prospects that he can give them.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about people dropping in the draft. I did see him as high as 5 in mock drafts early in the year, and now it's anywhere from 10 to 17. So that would be a drop of 5 to 10 spots. But to your point, man, once you get midway through the mock draft, man, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. Who knows? Some years it really falls in line. It's predictable. And other years there's reaches and everybody scratches their head. Why did Minnesota take 2 point guards? That doesn't make any sense. What'd they do that for? You scratch your head.
Yeah.
But then a couple of years ago after the draft, someone who knows shows us a list and said this is how they'll be ranked, and that's exactly how they were ranked. The league really did see the top guys the same way.
I think that if Araujo went 8th or so, I really believe Demon is going to go in the top 10.
I can see that. Every draft is different, and this one's supposed to be good. I don't remember how good that one was or wasn't, and I don't remember how much it was or wasn't hyped. But, yeah, I see your point. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone. The season ends tonight for the Utah Hockey Club. We will talk with the radio voice of the UHC. Mike Folta joins us next.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Jordan Clarkson, a couple years ago, when Will Hardy's first year, I thought that was his best season. I think Keontae George needs to be more of that. I think he's got to make the off the bounce, and I think he has to figure out a way to be a point guard in the league. I think the Jazz initial vision for him was the correct one.
I don't know if he's the number one.
I don't know. I don't know. If he plays hard, he's really good.
He does. He's got to play defense. He doesn't play defense.
That's why I'm saying that Walker-Kessler switch has to flip, or he's in trouble, because I don't think there's a whole lot of ancillary role for his game.
So this is since he moved to the bench full-time. 17 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. 17, 5, and 4
pretty good.
Is a hell of a stat line. Give everyone in the NBA the green light. They're not going to go 17, 5, and 4. I promise you. Like, there is something there.
I think Keontae, if he has a good offseason, I absolutely think there's value there.
I do too. I would not bail on Keontae.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The Utah Hockey Club wraps up the regular season tonight. Game 82, the finale in St. Louis against the Blues. High stakes for the Blues. Minnesota's on 95 points. St. Louis is on 94. Calgary's on 92. 2 of the 3 teams will get in. But Calgary has 2 games left. Minnesota and St. Louis only have 1. So St. Louis wants 2 points tonight, get to 96, and hope Calgary stumbles somewhere along the way. They haven't clinched yet. They haven't been eliminated yet. It all hangs in the balance for St. Louis as they play their last game of the year as well.
Huh.
Yuck, do you have Mike yet?
No.
Nope. All right, well.
I was wondering after the night game and the travel and all that. But, I think overall, this season's been a smashing success. Mission accomplished.
The team embraced the town embraced the team, and while they didn't get to the playoffs, they are much better. 12 points better in the standings now with a chance to make it 13 or 14 tonight.
And I think legitimately that's all you can ask for. I mean,
the 20-point improvement was always – that'd be great. But no one predicted it. No one expected it.
I was listening to Adrian in the pregame show last night, and Bill Armstrong was on there. And, he's talking about what they need to do. And he wants everyone 10% better. That's the money. I mean, that's the number that he put on it, and including himself. He's talking about the days of GMs going out and golfing when the season ends is over. He said that they've got a lot of work to do, but they're dealing from such a position of strength and encouragement there that they're just so excited about where the team is and what its potential is. But, potential is just that. It's unfulfilled until you do it.
DJ, PK, and we're joined now by Mike Folta, radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Good to have you back in studio. We had a little takeover last week, and I don't know, PK, I was kind of enjoying your seat there. I think I might stop in a little bit more often. We could play a little musical chairs.
Yeah, you're starting to threaten me that you want my gig, Mike, and I just don't like it.
Just don't walk near any ledges or cliffs here over the next couple weeks.
I know. I'm going to hire security from here on out.
Mike Folta joined us. His appearance brought to you by Hercules Credit Union. Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Mike, is there a little sense here that this is game 82 and the Magic Carpet Ride is going to come to an end and that everyone's a little disappointed because the ride's been getting really fun here the last few weeks?
I know it's a weird sensation with all this winning, and it's not necessarily going to lead to any, postseason momentum or anything like that. But I think vibes with the team are really high. Everybody's focused on finishing strong here, and the team has been finishing really strong, unbeaten in regulation over their last 5 games, and they've knocked off a couple good teams. They beat Dallas a few nights ago, one of the contenders in the Western Conference, beat Winnipeg the other week as well during this recent stretch. So Utah's kind of reaching a high watermark right now, 8 games above 500 at the close of the season, and they have a chance to get to 91 points on the year. And if you look historically through the Western Conference playoff races in the past, that 91 points would put you right in the playoff mix. It's not going to do that this year, but that's pretty much where Utah needs to be, and they'll obviously try to take that next step next season.
Yeah, DJ and I were talking about this earlier. This run that they're having right now, this late season run, is reminiscent of what the Jazz did. I think it was in 2015 and 2016. They hadn't been in the playoffs, and they didn't get off to a good start. But after the All-Star break, they really came on, and they won a lot. And it set the stage for a couple of things. That summer, they went out, and they got 2-3 veterans that came in and helped them. And that very season, the following season, that's when they first made the playoffs under Quinn Snyder. They won a series against the Clippers, and I think the Warriors or the Rockets were sitting there, and obviously they were way better. But the point being that late season, that second half of the season and late season run, you talk about, well, it's not going to lead the playoffs this year, but I don't think it's in vain. I think it's something that allows them, when they reconvene in next season, to be able to draw upon that, because the roster is not going to be dramatically different. There's going to be some additions and subtractions. There always are. But the nucleus is going to be there, and they'll have that reference point. So I see these games, even though it's not playoff this season, as very important to the quest and the march to get to the postseason, which obviously would have to be next year.
Well, Coach Bear made a really good point. To your point, PK, you guys are always on the same page.
We are.
But he mentioned that eventually this team is going to have to play game 83 and then 84 in the playoffs. And so, when you're out of the playoffs, it doesn't do you any good if you just kind of filter off the last 10 games of the year, because then you're really only playing a 72-game schedule. But to finish strong and to continue to stick to your structure and stick to the way you want to play through all 82 games, like, that's conditioning you and teaching the whole team, not just the young guys, but the whole team and the coaching staff and the organization, what it's going to take to one day reach the playoffs and play that full schedule. Because you look around the league at these teams that are gearing up for the playoffs, like St. Louis, Utah's opponent tonight. St. Louis is playing game 82 this evening, and they have to win to control their own destiny here. So, like, these guys, it's coming down to the wire for them, and it very easily could be that scenario next year for Utah. And so you have to be accustomed to playing your full schedule and playing it hard, and that's what Utah is trying to do tonight. The Blues won 12 games in a row coming out of the Four Nations break, and that really kind of made it impossible for Utah to reach the playoffs. Utah's been really good against the teams that it's chasing this year. You look at their record against Minnesota, St. Louis, Vancouver, and Calgary. Those are the 4 teams right in front of Utah, preventing them from playing postseason hockey. Guys, Utah is 11-1-1 against those teams. They've been beaten in regulation once out of 13 games against those 4 teams that they're chasing down. So head-to-head, they've been way better. But obviously the points against other teams matter as well.
There are several recent draft picks who've been up with the team, and we spent this year becoming, both the media and the fan base, becoming familiar with these guys, right? Barrett Hayton was a first-round pick in 2018, and he's got his 20-goal season and 45 points. Then you've also got more recently Dylan Guenther and Cooley. Now, there are other first-round picks, and one of the second-round picks is already up in Josh Doan. Are there other guys you think that were drafted in this range that are about to pay off the club, and even though we don't know who they are now, maybe you do, and maybe we're all about to figure them out next year?
Yeah, there's a nice crop of young players on the way. You've got T.J. Ginla, who's the son of Hockey Hall of Famer Jerome Ginla, who was a longtime Calgary Flame. Teej was a high draft pick, the first ever draft pick for Utah this past summer. He was dealing with an injury this year. Probably, if I were to guess, probably don't see him next year. He's just going to be 19, I believe it is. But he's an extremely, extremely talented, high character player that we'll see in development camp, and we might see in some preseason games and things of that nature. You've also got a couple of Russians that are currently playing in the top league in the KHL right now. So that's the Continental Hockey League. It's one of the best leagues in the world. And you've got two youngsters in Daniil Boot and Dmitry Simashev, who are high-end guys playing against men in Russia right now. Boot was taken 12th overall back in 2023, and he's a big guy. He's 6'6", like 220 at just 20 years of age, and he's putting up pretty good numbers against grown men over in Russia. And a lot of times those younger guys in Russia don't get the same amount of ice time or power play time as the veteran guys do, so it's really hard for them to produce over there. But so far this year, he's got almost 30 points with his KHL team. And then Simashev is a very good-looking young defenseman that Utah drafted. He's a rangy guy, like kind of also in that 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" range. Very good skater, and I think there's a chance that we could see both of them in the near future. Not exactly sure when, because it's always a little interesting getting those players to leave their Russian teams and come over to the NHL. But Simashev was also a first rounder from 2023. He was taken 6th overall. So there's a lot of investment by the Arizona Coyotes in those players with that draft capital. And obviously Utah has the rights to those guys. So hopefully we get a chance to get a look at them soon. But there's really no telling with some of those Russian players until they make their way over.
Do you buy Bill Armstrong's assessment that the players need to get 10% better?
10%, it's a lot, but
yeah.
That's kind of what we've seen, and I think that process is already underway. I mean, we've had, I would say, more than half the teams set some kind of scoring high this year. And I asked Bill about, okay, you want guys to get 10% better, so do you have to leave room in your lineup for guys to develop? Do you hold a spot? And his answer was, well, hey, this is the NHL, so if you don't get 10% better, we'll get somebody else who is 10% better. And so you've got these young guys that are developing and have done great this year, but the expectation is that they get even better next season. I mean, are we going to see Dylan Guenther become a 30-goal scorer next year? Is Logan Cooley going to be an 80-point guy? He's in the 60s right now. I don't want to say those are the numerical expectations for those players by the organization, but I think we're all kind of anticipating that Guenther, who's 22, and Cooley, who's just 20, that, yeah, those guys continue to get even better. And another guy, too, that we've talked about a little bit, Michael Kesselring, a defenseman who was originally a 6th-round pick by Edmonton. He was kind of a throw-in in a trade to the Arizona Coyotes. He's 6'4". He can skate. We've seen him shoot it over 100 miles an hour this year. He scored a goal last night. I think he's got the most raw ability, just physically, on this blue line for Utah. And so the expectation is that he's going to take the next step as well. So, yeah, I think it's not just the expectation. I think it's a necessity for these players to get 10% or however many percent better during the offseason.
But the only thing I don't like with Kesselring is he has cats as pets.
You know, if you were to meet Michael Kesselring, I think that would fit in with his personality. He's a pretty goofy guy. We've seen him kind of get poked fun at by the rest of the team. They like to call him Kessel King. They jokingly put a crown on him one day, and the older guys were kind of giving him some slack for it, or not giving him slack for it. They were going after him a bit for it. So it's fun to see this team and the shenanigans they get up to off the ice. Kesselring roommates with Josh Doan, who has a dog.
Right.
So it's cats and dogs in that household.
Right, but Kesselring keeps the cats upstairs and Doan keeps the dog downstairs.
That's what we've been led to believe. And apparently there's no infighting, but they're both pretty laid back guys, Kesselring and Doan. So there's no surprise that it works out.
Mike Folta joining us, radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club. Do you think in the offseason it's most likely that the assets, whether they're trading, whether they're spending money, trading draft picks, trading players, do you think they're looking to acquire another goaltender? They looking to beef up defensively a little bit, or are they looking to find someone who can put the puck in the back of the net?
I think there's actually a lot of needs that need to be that will get addressed in the offseason. I think you do have to expect and necessitate that guys will get better. Those younger guys will develop. But I think you might need another goaltender. Connor Ingram's in the player assistance program right now, and to be honest, when that happens, there's just not a lot of information, and so not sure what his situation is right now. So you might have to add another goaltender to help with Karel Vemelka, who's coming off a career year this season. You probably need another center, in my opinion, another guy right down the middle to help with matchups. Logan Cooley has been great this year, but man, when he's getting matched up against the other team's best centers and the other team's best checking lines every night, that's a lot to ask of a young guy. It's kind of like those power hitters in baseball. You want somebody in front of them or behind them to protect them in the lineup a little bit. And when you have two really good centers down the middle, it's harder to match up for the other team and really hone in on just one line. So I would love Utah to target another center here. It's not a great free agent class, but what we've seen from Bill Armstrong recently is that he's not afraid to pick up the trade phones. He made a couple big swings last summer. But one thing you have to consider as well here, guys, on the acquisition front, Utah's top four defensemen, that being Mikhail Sergachev with John Marino, Sean Durzi, and Ole Mata. Those are Utah's best four defensemen. They only played 19 games together this season due to injury. So it'll be interesting to see that group when they can play more together, and it'll be interesting to see if Armstrong feels like they need any more help on the back end.
Mike, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us all season long and for not making yourself too comfortable when you take over our studio.
Yeah, if the chair smells a little bit, PK, it's not my fault. But
gross.
Yeah, it was. Just thought it would fit in with the rest of the place. But no, it was great joining you guys all morning or all season long. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for having me in studio as well. We'll talk soon. We've got plenty of stuff to get to over the summer as well.
All right, we'll do it. Mike, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Folta, radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club, joining us right here on The Zone. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Sports self-esteem-wise, we are at the lowest that we've been with this team ever.
The Jazz have never been more irrelevant in my lifetime.
It's crazy. You can win.
This is the bottom.
Look, so let's say that they do get good in the next 3 or 4 years. How long would they be good? Those windows close extremely fast. Denver, right? We're naming off teams that win a title and then 18 months later fire their coaches, right? I mean, that's essentially what we've gotten to. So how long are those windows open? And how worth it is it to go through this stretch, be good for 3 or 4 seasons, maybe if you're lucky to the NBA Finals, and then that window closes so rapidly. It's so hard to build a team like the Golden State Warriors these days. Are the Jazz
The Warriors
built?
have had a 10-year window.
And are the Jazz built for that?
That's what they're trying to do.
And are they committed from that standpoint?
Yes, clearly.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Well, it's official, PK. We were talking about the rumors earlier this morning, and breaking news, the Pelicans are hiring Joe Dumars out of the league office. He ran the Pistons from 2000 to 2014, so now he'll try to rebuild the Pelicans. And the competition in the West, man, if you're rebuilding, I think you'd rather be in the East. It's a little more forgiving, but the Jazz are in the West, the Pelicans are in the West, and just going to have to figure it out going forward, but the bar is high.
Joe Dumars. Good luck, Joe, with Big Z in and out of the lineup constantly. That wrecks your chemistry.
You are a poet. Very well done.
You got to get out on the floor.
I had to pause there just in case you had another line. I didn't know.
Oh, I got plenty of lines, don't you see?
Yeah, plenty of lines.
I'm a line a minute guy, but when you build your franchise around a player who does not play, that creates somewhat of a problem, and that's the whole thing about you're drafting these guys. It's even a kid like Zion Williamson who has enormous talent. It's still somewhat of a crapshoot. No one's questioning his talent, but he hasn't been able to be on the floor. Any level of consistency that's going to help you win. And so Willie Green takes that job thinking that, okay, man, it's an NBA job. They've got a premier player. And it doesn't work. It doesn't happen because for a assorted number of reasons, he's out and continues to be out.
So as the Jazz draft here going forward, watch for body types, right? Because we can talk about how skinny Cody is and he's got to get stronger. And, it was a big deal how skinny Durant was. And Durant's had some injuries, Achilles and that. But the taller, bigger, heavier, thicker guys, they're just breaking down left and right. AD's injured a lot, right? Anthony Davis has a ton of injuries. Embiid has had even more injuries than that. And Zion's probably had the most injuries of all of them, especially considering how much younger he is. So how big can you be and play in the NBA these days?
Yeah, well, plus there's other stuff that's what's going on off the floor. You look at some of the stuff that's been going on with Anthony Edwards, and you have to wonder, where's the stability? And is that going to curtail it? Sean Kemp was involved in that, and then he got heavy. And as much as he took the league by storm, it seems like just that quick, he was out of the league.
Yes, you're right.
He was an enormous talent. They had some good games with the Jazz at that time, but there was no sustaining power. And then you look at Letter Carrier. He had some off-the-court stuff, but he managed to keep himself in great shape, and he played so darn long.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. When we come back, the list is out. CBSSports.com, top 150 players in college football. We'll talk with Shehan Jeyarajah, covering college football for CBS. Shehan rejoins our show next about that list and the wild, wild west. Tennessee's got a little issue at quarterback. We'll talk with Shehan about that. Stay with us. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined once again by Shehan Jeyarajah, CBS Sports national college football writer. Shehan, good morning.
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Good. You are a glutton for punishment. Look at you go. Do you want to make a list of 150 college football players, or is this something an editor makes you do? Because college football fan bases being what they are, no one's going to congratulate you for being right, except possibly the fan base of the number one player. Everybody else, they would think, is taking shots.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wasn't actually super involved in this list. This one is primarily put together by Blake Brockmeyer on our team, but trust me, we get a chance to hear about it after the fact.
How dare you? How dare you rank Jake Retzlaff so low?
Well, what was interesting is, obviously I'm a Baylor grad, so I heard probably more about Sawyer Robertson than just about anybody who didn't appear on that list. But like you said, outside of the top 100, and, for me, I was less surprised because if you told me that, Jake, I think he ended up at 103 or something like that, that doesn't feel completely unfair until you look at some of the guys who are in front of him. And I think that the thing with Jake, and frankly, I think you could make this case about a lot of BYU, is that like the numbers, I don't think tell the whole story. Like when you talk about Jake, you're talking about somebody who obviously has made big plays in big spots, who is a huge threat with his legs, even though, again, like he put up good numbers, but I think it undersells it a little bit. And, so for me, I think that he's definitely undervalued as a quarterback coming into next year. But, again, obviously I understand how people are evaluating and numbers matter, but I think he is undervalued.
How do you evaluate people who are playing at quote-unquote different levels of football? Whether you're in the FCS, Group of Five, Power Five. We do see the NFL draft people out of the lower levels, less now because we see them transfer to Arizona State and become the star running back instead of playing anonymously at Sacramento State. How do you figure that out? How much input is there from college coaches and NFL scouts?
Yeah, it's a great question and kind of an existential question in some ways right now. So there's a couple things that you look at. One, certainly, the first level is production. Like if you are producing at a lower level or at a medium level, like that does matter. Obviously, you don't know exactly how much it matters. A guy who gets 1,500 yards at the FCS level won't necessarily be able to do it against Alabama. But if he can't do it at that level, that's pretty much an eliminator right from the start. So that's a huge part of it is just, if you have production, if you're a consistently good football player, I think, in this era of measurables and stars and NFL Combine, I think that we've at times undervalued the idea of having good technique, of just being able to play football well against other players. So that's definitely the number one factor. And I hear that from a lot of different people. The next thing that you want to see is essentially, like, do you feel like this kid has the physicals and the measurables to be able to hang at this level? Sometimes you go back and look at things like, if a kid was a high school track star, like, do you have measurables from that perspective? Are you able to get 100 times, 40 times, things like that? Also, again, you're talking about, is he big enough? Is he strong enough? And again, like there are guys who have the physicals to play at a higher level, whether it be power conference or even in the NFL, who just develop a little bit later than other people. So that's another piece that you want to keep an eye on. And then three, I think that you also want to have, again, you obviously want to evaluate film as well. You know what? Like there are receivers who maybe do a great job of running routes, getting out of breaks, do everything right, and their quarterback just can't get them the ball. So you always do want to be a little aware of, just sort of the finer points of actually playing the position. But it's an imperfect science. I mean, Lord knows, even when you project guys to go from great college players to the NFL, we have misses all the time. But those are some of the factors that I think you take most into account.
Yeah, we were joking earlier about Devin Dampier, the kid from New Mexico, is coming over to Utah, being 30-some spots higher than Retzlaff, and, you have to produce content every segment. So we had a bunch of, let's say, engineered outrage over Retzlaff being ranked so low. But the thing that gives me comfort for Utah in that last season was not a pattern of the norm. It's just simply a circumstantial thing that they got so bad and had a 7-game losing streak. The offense obviously was pathetic. But I love the fact, and I watched Dampier play a bunch because he's at Bronco Mendenhall, and Bronco Mendenhall is a local guy and is now back. And we're in the Mountain West with Utah State. So we watch him play. The thing that gives me comfort that Utah is going to have a bounce-back season is they hired his offensive coordinator, so they're coming as a package. So this kid doesn't really have to learn the offense. He just has to implement it with some new players. But Beck and Dampier are going to be together on this. What is your take?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like you said, I think that the biggest thing that you say is that Dampier, I think, is a good enough athlete to be able to hang at this level. He played, for example, last year they played Arizona. He had 130 yards rushing, right? So, he has played good players before. You have some comps, with teams like Fresno State, teams like Colorado State that he had good games against. And so I think that from an athletic perspective, he's going to be able to hang at this level. I think he's going to be able to run at a high level at this level. And the big thing is when you compare it to the Utah offense of the last 2 years, like having that one aspect, frankly, even if it's a primarily zone read offense that obviously he's run before, I think that gives them a higher floor than what they had before. The question for me certainly is going to be, how does his passing translate? I think that's more of a ceiling raiser. You have, again, he was a 58% completion guy at New Mexico. He's going to be playing with much better players at receiver at Utah, and that stuff does matter, but he's also going to be playing against much better defenders. So, just to go back to the ranking, like I would have had him probably a little lower on my list, even though he was obviously such a productive player. But I think that, like you said, bringing in his offensive coordinator, the fact that he doesn't have to learn a new offense, the fact that he has some skills that I think will 100% translate, it puts Utah in a much better position than they've been the past 2 years.
At spring practice, there have been a lot of questions to Kyle Whittingham about the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, and on the list, you have 2 Utah offensive linemen. Caleb Lomu is at 126, and Spencer Fano's all the way up at 21. If you've got 2 stars like that on the line, if the rest of the line is just competent and healthy, you got to add in the healthy, does all the other stuff just tend to fall into place if the O-line's going to be that good, led by 2 players who are that good?
Yeah, it just gives you such an advantage when you start from that point. And, you look around college football right now, and, getting consistent offensive line play is a bit of a bear. It really is just not something that even the very good teams can rely on, especially when you talk about things like the transfer portal, especially when you talk about things like NIL kind of coming into the equation. So to bring back 2 players of that level, I think that gives a good starting point for this offense. And, again, obviously, the past 2 years they're playing so much of a pro-style system, and, again, so it's a big question of, can guys stand back there and make decisions? Well, I think that the fact that there is so much more run base out of this offense with 2 linemen the way that it is, it just makes the entire game easier heading into 2025.
This situation here that's just come up in the last few days with the Tennessee quarterback, he wants more money and blah, blah, blah. It's screwy, but I've adjusted to the new world. The thing that I think would absolutely suck above all is that if Tennessee now in this transfer portal way late in the season, in terms of the offseason anyway, and preparation, is if they go buy somebody who's really good off somebody else's roster. If that happens, man, I'm not going to like it. I'm going to hate it. And I'm a college football guy. I just don't want to see that happen.
No, and I think that's certainly a fear of a lot of people looking through this process. And I know that Tennessee fans certainly are looking around college football and saying, hey, you know what, let's go get Sam Leavitt. Let's go get Avery Johnson. Let's go get Kevin Jennings. And I will say, though, that this is kind of the blessing and curse of this new era. The curse, of course, being that anybody can go get anybody. But the blessing is, look, here's the reality, is that every team in the country has slotted a certain amount of money to their starting quarterback. And, if you're playing at a certain level, and, just to take example, like the Big 12, everybody is fully opting into rev share, which means, they're probably going to distribute about $15 million to their football team. A lot of good starting quarterbacks are already making $2 or $3 million, even at schools that aren't, Alabama's and Ohio States of the world. So I think it's actually going to be harder than people realize to poach away a good starting quarterback. Again, just to stick in the Big 12 for a second, there's a number of exciting young quarterbacks who certainly could have gotten offers somewhere else. I mentioned Sawyer Robertson from Baylor earlier, Josh Hoover from Tennessee, Baron Morton from Texas Tech, Jake Retzlaff from BYU, Rocco Beck from Iowa State. That's the quote-unquote poorest team, arguably, in the league. And, they're holding on to their guys. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder than people think to go out there. Now, look, if Tennessee decides, hey, you know what, we're going to throw $5 million at a kid, that's something that you have to reckon with. But, the calculus for a quarterback to transfer changes. One, when you are getting compensated very well to be in a good situation as is. And 2, by the way, we have to throw in on top of this, they're only going to be there for the fall. They could transfer to this school and still lose the starting quarterback job to Jake Merklinger, who's been in the system for 2 years.
Right.
So I think it's a more risky proposition than people think. And so, look, maybe in a week or two I'll be sitting here with egg on my face, but I really think that Tennessee is more likely to bring in a potential option, a player who's maybe talented and maybe has some starting experience, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to go big game fishing.
When I hear coaches complain about this, I don't mind hearing fans complain about it. The fans are frustrated. They're emotionally invested. And, they keep me employed. They keep PK employed. They keep you employed. It's that emotion. It's part of the package. But when I hear coaches complain about this, these kids are transferring without ever playing a game. Coaches have taken jobs and left without ever playing a game. Shut up. It sounds terrible coming from you guys. I know you're frustrated, but go scream into a paper bag. Don't tell the rest of us. We don't want to hear that. Am I the only one who thinks that? Do you guys, when you're sitting around the CBS guys doing these lists and getting advice and talking to each other, do you ever just laugh about this or holler about it?
Well, I think it goes back to the Don Draper quote, right? That's what the money is for. And these coaches are getting paid a lot of money to deal with a lot of these issues. And by the way, both the blessing of all of this is also like as we have staffs grow and administrators grow, like you're having legitimate general managers who are dealing with a lot more of this stuff on a day-to-day basis than the coach necessarily has to. I wouldn't be surprised in the next year or two or three if we almost move to an NFL-style model, and we're kind of moving there, of like a lot of the recruiting is done by people who aren't necessarily the coaches. And I think that, I think that there would be a lot of benefits to that for everybody, frankly. Now, I do think at the same time, like you look around just sports in general, there's no other sport that has perpetual free agency where no player is locked in, where you could lose all 85 of your players for nothing and just have no control over it. So I do have sympathy, less from the perspective of like, oh, this is hard, and more from the perspective of like, how are you actually supposed to like do the job well? I think that the fact that it's harder to do the job just from the perspective of like you don't even know who's going to be locked in, there's no way to guarantee anything long time, like I think that it's bad for the product when that's the case. But again, when a coach is making $6 or $7 million a year and has these guaranteed contracts and has these buyouts, like it is what the money is for.
Any form of guidelines, we keep hearing about it, maybe a 2-year commitment that kids have to make, or is it just forget it, man, because coaches come and go as they please, so why shouldn't the youngsters?
I think that the big question with all of this is kind of big picture. How do you make that happen? Do you make it happen through collective bargaining, which I think is a lot more complicated than people are sort of laying out? Do you make it happen through federal legislation? I mean, I think that one thing that we're going to see is when the rev share does come in, I think that some schools will try to sign, quote unquote, multi-year contracts. The issue is when a kid sues to try to get out of it. I mean, the colleges and the NCAA have lost that kind of situation over binding contracts every single time. So I think that that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a certain level of like, hey, you know what? We have laid out clear enough that like this is binding and we have the backing to make that happen. And maybe this House case is a step towards that. I don't know, but we won't really know until it's settled in court.
Is revenue sharing really going to be the end of NIL pay to play? Yeah, I want you to shoot a commercial for this $3 million I'm about to give you, or maybe I don't even want that. It seems to me the schools want that money to go away, but it also seems like the second it's taken away, there'll be a lawsuit, and the NCAA and the schools will lose. So it seems to me like NIL is here to stay. I'm old enough to remember when there were restricted earnings coaches in college basketball, and there was a lawsuit, and they lost, and they had to come up with a lot of back pay. How is this going to be any different?
Yeah, and that's sort of the billion-dollar question in so many ways. I think that the way that the big difference between like this moment and, a year from now is that the House settlement will have been the case. And so what the NCAA will try to argue is that this was a class action lawsuit, that that players all could be included in it, that this is essentially the equivalent of negotiating with players at large, and they came to this agreement, and therefore it should be binding. And again, that's going to be challenged in court very soon. Like you said, I think that there's a lot of people who would like for this to be essentially the end. And the $20.5 million rev share, that is a big amount of money. Most programs in the country are not at this moment budgeting that much towards paying players. So it will be a major increase for most teams that do opt into the agreement. But at the same time, we all know the pressures of college football. Again, just take the Tennessee situation, for example, right? If they have $8 million to go get Carson Beck, it might not necessarily be something that they like to hear, that they can't do it when they are desperate. So again, it's going to go to court. The NCAA will probably try to make the case that we paid out $3 billion in settlement. We reached a settlement. It was a class action lawsuit. This should count as precedent enough to enforce the rev share cap that has been agreed to. But again, it really is going to come down to which judge gets to see it whenever this comes up.
Shehan, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining the show one more time to talk about the never-ending soap opera that is college football.
Thank you so much for having me.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're going to take a break. When we come back, everything you missed in this show, the basketball, the football, the hockey, we'll get to it all. Coming up, stay with us.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
It's what you want.
You know, I was babysat until 8th grade. Dolores Arnold used to babysit me every day after school. And
Dolores?
Her husband, yeah.
Look how you got 220-pound 8th grade hands.
Can we not focus on that?
You're like, hey, Dolores. Hi, Hans. I think it's funny the thought of a 8th grade Hans Olsen probably pushing 2 bills, sitting in and being babysat.
You guys let me know when you're done so I can finish my story.
Tell us more about Dolores.
Anyways, her husband, Don, liked MASH.
Sitting next to Don on the couch watching MASH.
Hey, Don, can I borrow your shaver?
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
9 a.m. Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. DJ and PK, time to get you up to speed on everything you missed in this show. A little football, a little hoops, a little hockey. PK, where do you want to start? Your favorite part of the show, the most interesting part of the show.
Well, I think that given the fact that the hockey team is closing the season today, they deserve some recognition, and they've been on a nice little win streak here at the end, and they've been able to show that this team is capable of making a strong push next season. We all have a lot of optimism. They're further along, obviously, in the rebuild than the Jazz are, and maybe that changes with a pick and some acquisitions over the summer, but right now it looks like when the hockey team makes it, you can expect a several-year run of postseason. And then in hockey, you just don't know what's going to happen. You can't identify an overwhelming favorite in a given series. Maybe you can occasionally, but it's sort of anything can happen in those types of situations. So I'm looking forward to them getting there. It's been a great season in terms of what they needed to accomplish this season. And truly, when they say we're just getting started, I think this is something that is accurate in this assessment.
Got a lot of young guys who are already up. Got some more young guys who are on the way. It'll be interesting to see how they fit in. And with that whole throwing down the 10% gauntlet, you got to be 10% better with any acquisitions they might make. You can see how roster spots somebody's going to get squeezed. Maybe before they have a chance to improve the 10%.
So be it. I mean, that's competition at the highest level, and that's the way it goes. I know for myself, my motto is just try not to be 5% worse.
Oh, that's practically the same thing.
Yeah. I set a low standard, and then when I achieve it, I feel better about myself.
Sure. Obviously. Clearly. Hey, it's worked so far. Why change now, right?
You don't want to go crazy here.
Hey, Yock, the hockey will be on 97.5 The Zone tonight, and the Bees will be on 1280 The Zone. Is that correct?
Correct, yep.
There it is. All right.
The Bees are out of town right now, aren't they?
They're in Sacramento, Sutter Health Park, the revamped home of the A's, and obviously they're sharing it with Sacramento.
Because I know at 3:30, the juggernaut that is Corner Canyon is playing baseball at the new ballpark today.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, there you go.
Having a high school game to break it in.
Who are they playing?
Does it matter?
That's a good point.
Yes, it does.
It's like who opened for the Beatles? You know what I mean? Who cares? I assume it's a school out there. I don't know. You can go look it up. I can remember when I was in high school, we got to play at Packard Stadium, and that was just so cool. That's where the Sun Devils played on campus. They don't play there anymore. They play over where the minor league facility was for years and years of the Phoenix Giants, San Francisco Giants. It's only like 3 miles away.
The mighty Copper Hills Corner Canyon Chargers are taking on the Harriman Mustangs.
Yeah, I figured it had to be a ball club from out in that direction.
Yeah, on the west side is Harriman's right there.
But I know they're very excited, and it's a new ballpark, no less. And so that's good. You know, the hockey team has talked about letting youth hockey be able to be played in their facilities and all that. And for kids, you know, like myself, who was never going to go anywhere, that was a little bit of a highlight.
I could have played in the dump that was the San Diego Sports Arena if we hadn't choked like dogs one playoff game short of it. If only.
Well,
would have been cool.
Why do you have to be so mean like to dogs, man?
Leave the poor dogs alone. You just choked, period.
You sucked. Leave the dogs out of it.
Nice. Sorry, Rover. My bad.
Right. Exactly. Leave Spot. Leave them alone, man. They got such short lives as it is. They don't need any more crap from you.
Pulled an upset in a game we should have lost and then lost a game we should have won. Oops. All right, so in addition to the Bees hitting the road to Sacramento, the rest of the baseball, Showtime, home run number 5, majestic, as most of his shots are.
Yeah, 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and it was up, no less, which tends to be a little harder, but he gets on top of it, and it's just gone right from the start. And what's cool is you can't really see it in real time because you're watching the bat and the ball and everything, but, of course, they show it, and they're going to show it, like, from a side angle, and then you see the fans that are all down in the expensive seats all stand up. I mean, that's what they came for. They came for that I saw that when he was with the Angels and they played the Yankees. It would have been 2 summers ago because obviously he's in his second season with the Dodgers. And we were down there for what I might have been Pac-12. I don't remember. Or maybe I think it was the last year. And we go to the game and sure enough, he gets up and they're down 2. And they are down, I think they're down 2, and they got runners on first and second. They had walked him intentionally the prior time, but they felt like they couldn't walk him in that at bat. And what does he do? He hits a home run. And that's what it's about. The guy's star power is just simply incredible. And to do this so many times in a sport where failure is far more prevalent than success, to be able to do what he does is just absolutely amazing.
His 5th home run of the year, 6 leads the major leagues. There's 8 players on 6. A few names you may have heard of: Trout, Judge, Schwarber, Tatis. The Stars are delivering early in the year.
Well, as they often do. I was watching the Yankee game, too. That was on the Baseball Network earlier in the evening, and they hit 4 solo home runs. And that was cool to see for them as they're bashing the ball around themselves there against Kansas City. Bobby Witt Jr. is a star for the Kansas City Royals. His father obviously was a pitcher in the big leagues, and he hit a home run. That's what. But those are the people that should get the majority of the money because those are the people that folks are going to see.
Putting the butts in the seats.
Yeah, you don't get a hot dog when Aaron Judge is on deck.
That's the time to go to the bathroom and not worry about a line. No. Aaron Judge has committed to play for Team USA in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. He's already been named team captain.
Team captain, yeah. That's something that really stunned me, how big of a deal it was and has become. And now it is, but I just did not see it. But it's happened, and it goes to my, if you are into whatever sport you're playing, if the players, regardless, woman, man, then I'm into it. And there was when they first started, my sister goes to a game at the Diamondbacks ballpark because obviously they're playing a lot of them in Phoenix and Florida and maybe some in California there that time of year to get to warmer parks and warmer weather. And I'm eating lunch at Cafe Rio, and she says, calls me up. I answer the phone. Just here, I want you to talk to this person. And it was some random person from Utah who just happened to be sitting next to her. And anybody in my family, if they meet anyone from Utah, they immediately bring up, have you heard of PK? And this person, a woman, says, oh, yeah. So then she calls and puts me on the phone to talk to a total stranger.
How much did you hate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's not my thing, man. I'm kind of quiet.
There's no stopping your proud older sisters. They're not going to listen to anything from their little brother. They think it's awesome.
Right, so she does that and gets a laugh because she knows that's going to make me somewhat uncomfortable. And so she got back on the phone. Yeah, well, I'm sitting next to her, blah, blah, blah. Says she's a big fan. The craziest one was, my sister has a timeshare down in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, obviously, and I get this direct message on Twitter that, hey, I was just standing in swimming, one of those swim up bars that's like inside the pool type thing, and I'm sitting here talking with your sister right now. Great. Tell her I said hello.
NBA play-in starts tonight. Are you ready? The Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic at 5:30. I have no faith in either of their ability to do anything. Winner of this game will be the 7th seed and will face the Boston Celtics. So
I would think that it would be Orlando, just that they've had a disappointing season, but they got battered with injuries early on in the season. And so maybe they might be a little bit better than Atlanta. Atlanta seems to be one of these teams that is perpetually running in place.
Trapped in the middle. Grizzlies and Warriors at 8 o'clock, second half of the doubleheader. If there's one team in these 8 teams in the play-ins that we all think might be able to, quote-unquote, make some noise in the NBA playoffs, it's got to be the Warriors. I'm not buying the Grizzlies, but the Warriors, maybe. And the winner of this game is 7 and gets Houston, who would be the 2 seed. Is the 2 seed.
Well, the Grizzlies sort of get in their own way. I mean, the Grizzlies won. You're talking about 2 teams. They have identical records. I just called up the standings. Yep. Both of these teams are 48 and 34. That is quality. If you win 48 games in this league, I think you're a pretty good team.
I agree with that. But a couple things here. The the Grizzlies get in their own way, and the Warriors are much better than that since they got Butler, and much worse before they had Butler. So 48 is where they end up, but it's not a real representation of their season.
Oh, I think that Memphis's 48 is not a real representation of their talent. And suppose they don't get in their way and they win, and then they can go ahead and make a little bit of a run. That would not shock me. I mean, you look at the winner plays the 2 seed.
The winner is 7. Yeah, the winner is 7 and gets Houston, who's 2. The loser has to play the winner of the 9-10 game,
right?
And then that team ends up being 8 and playing Oklahoma City at 1. So the incentive to win tonight is very high because Houston doesn't have postseason experience. Oklahoma City has a better record, presumably the better team, and they've got the postseason experience. You'd much rather play Houston.
A substantially better record. The Rockets finished 16 games behind the Thunder. The Rockets won 52. Memphis and Golden State won 48. There's not that big of a difference. And as you say, the Jimmy Butler acquisition has changed the complexion of the team. So that looks like, certainly if it's the Warriors, that the Rockets are going to be up to their eyeballs trying to beat these guys.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, the Warriors do have guys, the veteran guys are really good. They're also a little dinged up. A thumb injury with Steph. What does that mean? How bad is it? Only he really knows, right?
Ronnie Lott got his thumb cut off. What are we talking about?
Not his thumb. It was his pinky.
Oh, same difference, just a little bit more to the left.
Not the same.
It's not the critical fingers that you need. At least where I grew up, you needed the other fingers.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The opposable thumb is critical no matter where you grow up, PK.
My sleeper team in the playoffs is the Clippers.
Yeah, I can see that. Nobody's talking about them, and they played well at the end of the year. And back to your point, 50 wins, nothing to sneeze at there. Playing a Denver team in turmoil, presumably the Thunder in the second round.
Yes, you have players the caliber of Harden and Kawhi. You can be dangerous.
But the counter argument that is, if they're healthy, and are they going to stay healthy? Is Kawhi going to stay healthy for 2 straight months?
I don't know. I mean, it hasn't happened, but it has happened, and we saw what happened. If that makes any sense.
Back when he was with Toronto, right? All right, DJ and PK, that's a lot of what we have been talking about this morning. The list is out of 150 college football players. Rank them 1 to 150. 4 Utes on the list, 1 Cougar, and Shehan and Jeyarajah joined us earlier this hour. It's already posted wherever you get your podcast. Yak's already put it up. You can go listen to Shehan and Jeyarajah from CBS Sports and Shehan's takes on that list. DJ and PK, your feedback, a lot of it about that list, coming up next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. It is time for your feedback. A lot of people reacting to the list. Although list radio doesn't work, PK, I've been told that.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yep, doesn't work. CBS Sports ranks the top 150 college football players for 2025. Devin Dampier opened at 63, but is now at 62. Jake Retzlaff opened at 100, is now at 99. Is that more disrespect for the quarterback who went 11-2 last season?
Yes.
11-2 and highly ranked at True Blue BYU 1984. I love all the love for Dampier. He went 5-7 in Mexico in the Mountain West. Jake went 11-2 in the Big 12. Enough said.
It's the Big 12, yeah.
It's the Big 12, brother. Now, see, when I do that with NFL quarterbacks, you say there's way more to it.
I agree,
Perhaps the BYU defense was a little or a lot better than New Mexico's defense.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that. Yeah, I don't just put that on Jake Retzlaff going 11-2. I think that's dumb. Even in today in baseball, we look at a starting pitcher who goes 5 or 6 innings, and that's why I don't think they put as much emphasis on winning. I mean, they put emphasis on winning, but I'm talking about the starting pitcher's record.
No, just keep you in the game.
Yeah, right. And that's where we rarely have 20-game winners anymore because, they go 50 pitches, and you think, oh, my gosh, they might be done. And maybe there's something to it because it seems like there's way more arm injuries with the Tommy John surgery. But, yeah, definitely in football. I still think, though, that winning does account for something, and they had a number of close wins in which he had to engineer those individual victories. Obviously, Oklahoma State and Utah, and he darn near pulled it off against ASU. He threw the pick, obviously, that thwarted it. And then Dillingham is total brain fade and decides to run backwards. He'll never do that
awesome.
again.
That was awesome.
I was 33 years old, man. That was almost a literal fatal mistake in terms of losing the game. It turned out okay, I guess, there. But I think Retzlaff, if you're going to have somebody over here, I just don't think that he should be 30 spots ahead. That's a lot.
Brandon says, absolutely. Jake proved he's a winner at the highest level, and Dampier beat Wyoming. Okay, look it up. Did they beat Wyoming?
I don't know if they beat Wyoming.
We've already had false. He was cutting up Nevada. No, he didn't play Nevada.
Yeah, but I am super intrigued to see what this kid can do because he's an exciting player. And, he's got and we talk about how Retzlaff he played those 4 games at the end of his junior year or sophomore year, whatever it was. I guess I get the year back, I guess. And then he was able to make the progression in the second year. Well, I can logically assume then that Dampier is going to make his improvement in his second year with Jason Beck. It's an entirely new team. I understand that, and new competition, but it gives me if I'm a Ute fan, I have great comfort that those two came together as a package deal. They can hit the ground running, man. It's about everybody else getting up to speed to what they do and what Jason wants to do and what Dampier is capable of doing. And so that's why I want to see, right off the bat, too, I love the fact that Utah plays a Big Ten team in the Rose Bowl rather than, a 1 AA-er. I love the fact this year that we'll get to see it to a degree from game 1. Doesn't mean, that the season, if they win, they're going to win all their games. If they lose, they're not going to be good at all. But still, it's fun to see this offense with this new kid against a legitimate form of competition in game 1.
Nobody really likes those tune-up games, and this whole thought that somehow they could be played and not count. It could be like a preseason game, for which I'm sure they charge regular season prices. I wonder, as this becomes more of a professional model, if that will finally happen, if that's a way to create more inventory for TV networks and then more valuable inventory, because then you get to replace that game, presumably with a better opponent. It's just the coaches and the wear and tear on the rosters. I can see coaches complaining about that. But
especially they're reducing rosters now.
Yep. Always follow the road that leads to more money, and one more game would lead to more money. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're all done. Jake and Ben are up next right here on The Zone.